Chapter 1. Guardian of the Tomb for 50 years. The time traveler, Qin Li, found himself condemned to guard the tomb for 50 years after inadvertently releasing an ancient ferocious beast. He initially believed he would remain in obscurity forever, but unexpectedly acquired a signing-in system. Master, the young master has recklessly unleashed the ancient ferocious beast and must be severely punished. The young master has caused turmoil within the sect, endangering the innocent, and must face strict retribution. The young master has maliciously harmed others and must be expelled from the sect. Inside the Grand Assembly Hall, numerous elders of the Qin sect gathered, their expressions grave as they urged the sect leader to take action against the young master. At the upper end of the hall, the leader of the Qin sect, holding his forehead, listened coldly to the accusations against the young master presented by the elders. He commanded, "Transmit my orders. Young Master Qin Li has disrupted the sect. His title is hereby revoked, and he is to serve as a tomb guardian for 50 years. Should he dare to venture outside, he shall be executed without mercy." A chilling silence enveloped the hall, with cold voices echoing throughout. Days later, Qin Li awoke to discover he had traversed into the body of the former young master of Qin sect. Was he truly condemned to guard the tomb of past sect leaders for releasing an ancient ferocious beast? As he opened his eyes, he lamented his fate, feeling a deep sense of regret. Due to his reckless actions, the ancient beast had shattered his dantian with a single strike, leaving him devoid of cultivation. With neither power nor status, he felt ill-prepared for such a beginning. "Young master, we have arrived," announced two inner disciples of the Qin sect, leading Qin Li to the back mountain. The once obsequious disciples now wore expressions of disdain, eager to leave. "Go ahead." Qin Li waved his hand dismissively. Such fickle allies. He gazed at the ominous mountain before him, exuding an aura of death and cloaked in darkness. Atop the mountain stood a dilapidated thatched hut, beyond which lay the tombs of the sect's past leaders. Qin Li felt a surge of resentment. Suddenly, a line of golden text appeared before him. "The host may sign in at the current location. Would you like to proceed? Is it possible to sign in before the tomb?" His heart leapt with joy at the thought of a system. Sign in. Before him, more golden text materialized. "Signing in at the tomb grants the reward, 10,000 sword technique." In an instant, a complete and unparalleled sword technique flooded his mind, seamlessly integrating within him. In a moment, his internal energy surged forth. Waves of sword aura coiled and spiraled above the thatched hut like a celestial dragon, radiating immense pressure that sent shivers down one's spine. The next second, Qin Li abruptly opened his eyes, enveloped in sword energy, rising to his feet. Whoosh! The sound of slicing through the air resonated within the Qin sect. Within mere breaths, thousands of swords materialized above the sect. What is happening? Why are my Fengyun sword and Qingfeng sword flying away on their own? The Qin sect erupted into chaos as disciples fled their dormitories in terror. Each individual clutched their sword sheaths, from which their long swords had long since departed. Suddenly, a disciple from the Qin sect spoke up. "What?" Upon hearing this utterance, all the disciples of the Qin sect lifted their gazes towards the heavens. What is this? Above the Qin sect, a multitude of swords, numbering in the tens of thousands, obscured the moonlight, creating a dense canopy of blades. A formidable sword intent radiated from the center, spreading outward with a force that could shatter the very earth. The disciples of the Qin sect felt as though their hearts were struck by hammers, gasping for breath under the overwhelming pressure. The oppressive force was too immense. Within the sect, long swords continued to converge towards the center. What is happening? A middle-aged man emerged from the main hall of the sect, staring in astonishment at the endless stream of swords flying skyward. "Sect master, what is going on?" Several elders approached the middle-aged man, their voices laced with anxiety. "I am not certain," the middle-aged man replied, furrowing his brow. "The 10,000 sword technique." In a thatched cottage, Qin Li shouted loudly. Above the Qin sect, the gathered swords danced in the air. It was not merely the swords within the sect that were drawn in. The blades from outside the Qin sect were also caught in the tumult, forming a colossal vortex in the sky. At that moment, within a forbidden area of the Qin sect, an elder sensed the overwhelming sword intent emanating from the sect and opened his eyes in disbelief, exclaiming, "The 10,000 sword technique, lost for millennia. This cannot be." The elder's eyes were wide with astonishment, his wrinkled face etched with incredulity. Chapter 2. The Lost 10,000 Sword Technique. "Scatter," Qin Li commanded with a low voice. Whoosh! Simultaneously, the countless long swords suspended above the Qin sect seemed to lose their power, plummeting earthward. Not good. The sect master formed a hand seal, instantly conjuring a faint blue barrier to shield the entire Qin sect. Clang! The sound of clashing weapons echoed through the air. Clang! This is bad. The protective formation is about to shatter. The sect master observed the cracks forming in the protective array, realizing it was on the verge of collapse. Elders, protect the sect. Yes. No sooner had the words left his mouth than several esteemed elders of the Qin sect summoned their vital energy to reinforce the protective formation. Moments later, the signs of fissures in the array became increasingly severe. Damn it. Is fate truly set on the destruction of my Qin sect? The sect master poured all his vital energy into the formation, recalling that just days prior, it had suffered severe damage and had not yet been fully restored. This night, it faced yet another calamity. Xuanwu Shield. Just as the formation was about to vanish, a powerful shout resonated from a forbidden area of the Qin sect. A massive turtle shell descended, enveloping the entirety of the Qin sect. Ancestor. Qin Li felt the surroundings darken as the entire sect was covered by the enormous shell. Crash. A quarter of an hour later, silence fell outside the shell, and the myriad swords that had coalesced under the 10,000 sword technique all fell to the ground. Withdraw. A voice echoed forth. In the next instant, the turtle shell that had shrouded the Qin sect vanished without a trace. Qing Feng expressed his gratitude to the ancestor for intervening. Upon witnessing this, the leader of the Qin sect promptly knelt before the forbidden grounds, loudly calling out in reverence. The disciples of the Qin sect expressed their heartfelt gratitude for the intervention of their esteemed ancestor. A chorus of voices rose in unison, thanking the ancestor for their life-saving grace. The echoes of their appreciation intertwined, yet the voice of the ancestor remained conspicuously absent. After a night had passed, dawn broke. Qin Li donned his attire and stepped out of the thatched cottage. The sign-in procedure permitted only one attendance per day, with rewards distributed randomly, and the locations for sign-in also varied. The benefits would diminish with each visit, ultimately leading to the cessation of sign-in at that particular site. A line of golden text appeared before Qin Li. Would you like to sign in at the thatched cottage? He silently pondered, sign in. With that thought, the sign-in was successful, yielding 10 essence cleansing pills as a reward. This location allowed for repeated sign-ins until the prompt disappeared. The phrase "a timely aid in a moment of need" echoed in Qin Li's mind as he gazed at the 10 pills, each a muted brown hue resting in his palm. The essence cleansing pills were notoriously difficult to concoct, making them rare and precious even within the inner sanctum of the Qin sect. Disciples from both the inner and outer sects were permitted to claim only one essence cleansing pill per month. These exceptional pills had the power to enhance one's aptitude and elevate cultivation levels. With just a single day as sign-in, I have acquired 10. At this rate, my cultivation will be restored to its former glory in less than a year. Qin Li trembled slightly, excitement unmistakably etched across his features. He consumed all 10 essence cleansing pills in one go. Instantly, he felt as if his body were ablaze, with the spiritual energy of the universe surging into his newly formed dantian. After a few breaths, Qin Li's cultivation ascended to the postnatal realm. The martial arts hierarchy consists of 12 stages: Qi induction, postnatal, innate, divine concealment, purple mansion, primordial spirit, cave abode, tribulation crossing, path severing, supreme, primordial unity, and the unparalleled emperor. Qin Li had already reached the Qi induction stage through his practice of the 10,000 sword technique yesterday. Today, after consuming the 10 essence cleansing pills, he ascended directly to the postnatal realm. Feeling the aura of the postnatal stage emanating from himself, Qin Li's future appeared exceedingly bright. Time to practice swordsmanship. He casually snapped a branch from a withered tree, transforming it into a makeshift sword, and commenced his training in front of the cottage. The air crackled as the sword energy surged forth, slicing through the atmosphere with relentless precision. Each strike was imbued with profound insights of the path. Chapter 3. The Sign-In and the Celestial Slayer Artifact. The Celestial Slayer Sword. Senior brother, I have arrived. A melodious voice rang out from behind. Qin Li turned to see a cherubic little girl, plump and endearing, bounding towards him. The newcomer, with her short, stubby legs, panted heavily as she approached. Senior brother, I came to see you. She stood before Qin Li, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Why are you crying? Did someone bully you? A flicker of concern crossed Qin Li's expression. His little sister disciple was one of the few individuals he genuinely cared for. No, it's just that the wind and sand made my eyes water while I was running here. She lifted her sleeve to wipe her eyes, attempting to appear nonchalant. Senior brother Qin Li, it's really cold here. The little girl rubbed her hands together as she spoke. The graveyard was inherently steeped in a heavy, eerie atmosphere, especially the burial grounds of the sect's past leaders. Faint wisps of dark energy drifted skyward. Senior brother Qin, I have secured the task of delivering your meals from the sect. I promise to be punctual, said the chubby boy, patting his chest with confidence. I shall await my junior sister's delivery here tomorrow, Qin Li replied with a smile. Indeed, The boy nodded affirmatively. See you. You should return now. The ominous energy here is too potent for you, and your cultivation level is insufficient. It will only harm your meridians, Qin Li remarked. Observing the boy rub his hands increasingly, his small face flushed. Siyu was the chubby boy's name. Siyu shook her head in defiance, saying, Senior brother Qin, I am not cold, this is warmth. Hurry back, we shall meet tomorrow, otherwise, senior brother will be displeased, Qin Li warned, his gaze firming. Understood, Siyu pouted, glancing back reluctantly as she departed. That girl, claiming to have fought for the chance to bring me meals, is clearly being bullied. Qin Li mused as he watched her retreating figure. The dark energy, remnants of the deceased sect masters, accumulated here, and lingering too long could lead to the erosion of one's meridians. Such infiltration could severely impact cultivation. Ordinary disciples would succumb to madness and perish in a short time. Not to mention someone like Qin Li, who was already weakened and injured. This was precisely why those two inner disciples dared only to deliver to the foot of the mountain. It could be said that the sect's master dispatching Qin Li to guard this grave for 50 years was akin to a death sentence. Under such circumstances, who would willingly offer to bring me meals? It would be a blessing if they did not shun me. At present, my priority must be to cultivate the 10,000 swords technique. Continue practicing, Qin Li declared, picking up the branch he had discarded, and resumed his training. The sword energy surged forth, radiating from the branch in all directions. Clang. The sound of slicing air resonated. At dawn, Qin Li practiced before a tombstone inscribed with the words Qing Tian He. Qing Tian, he was the previous sect master of Qingyun sect, who perished in battle against an unparalleled swordsman. Do you wish to check in at the tombstone of the former sect master Qing Tian He? A familiar line of golden text appeared before Qin Li's eyes. One can check in here, he exclaimed in astonishment. Check in, Qin Li declared without hesitation. If all tombstones permitted check-ins, he would be overjoyed. Check-in successful. Reward, Zhan Xian's sword. In the next moment, a white sword sheath appeared in Qin Li's hand. With a swift motion, he drew the sword, unleashing a tremendous burst of sword energy from within the sheath. Clang. This sword energy shot towards the heavens, parting the clouds. Fully unsheathing the Zhan Xian sword, its blade gleamed white, crafted from jade, utterly indestructible. The sharp tip, radiating a chilling aura, proclaimed its extraordinary nature. BRR, how cold? Qin Li felt the emanating chill as he held the Zhan Xian sword before him. Fortunately, I was in need of a suitable weapon, and you shall suffice. Qin Li grasped the sword of slaying immortals and elegantly twirled it in the air. A dense chill intertwined with the sword's aura, manifesting as he struck. Splendid, splendid, splendid. Qin Li exclaimed thrice in admiration, his eyes brimming with affection for the sword of slaying immortals. In the next moment, he infused the surging energy within him into the sword. Upon receiving Qin Li's pure essence, the sword quivered, emitting a delightful sound, reveling in the purity of his energy. The scabbard transformed into a stream of white light, vanishing into the palm of Qin Li's hand. When he opened his palm, the sword of slaying immortals appeared as a design etched upon it. This sword, true to its name, perhaps once severed the celestial beings. Qin Li could distinctly sense the immense power of the sword. It was formidable. In this world, there existed not only warriors capable of shattering the void with a single punch, but also cultivators who could knock upon the gates of immortality. Enough of this contemplation. I must focus on my own development to avoid being eliminated as soon as I leave the sect. Qin Li scratched the back of his head, initially harboring doubts about the existence of cultivators in this land. Yet, the power emanating from the sword of slaying immortals undeniably surpassed that of an ordinary warrior. There could be but one possibility. This sword belonged not to a warrior, but to a cultivator powerful enough to approach the realm of immortals. With this thought, Qin Li turned and summoned the sword to continue his training. What of the immortals? One day, I shall wield this sword to slay one of them. Qin Li exclaimed impulsively. In the next instant, the sword blazed with a brilliant light, trembling violently. I merely mentioned slaying an immortal. Is that reason enough for such excitement? Qin Li remarked. Clang. The sword of slaying immortals continued to quiver, showing no sign of ceasing. The fierce tremor caused Qin Li's grip on the sword to tingle. I understand now. I shall indeed use you to vanquish immortals, I promise. Qin Li patted his chest. Buzz. Upon hearing Qin Li's words, the sword fell silent. Its cold brilliance sharp and focused. Chapter 4. The little junior sister descends the mountain. Signing in at the tombstone of the 32nd generation ancestor of the Qingyun sect rewarded him with the art of slaying the heavens. Signing in at the tombstone of the 62nd generation sect master granted him the proud heaven battle body. Signing in at the tombstone of the 33rd generation sect master bestowed upon him the creation and transformation technique. Over the past 3 days, Qin Li had diligently signed in at the tombstones, earning numerous rewards. He then signed in at the small cottage to claim the cleansing elixir. Senior brother, senior brother, senior brother. Qin Li turned his gaze to the foot of the mountain. There, Siyu was approaching, wielding a whip to urge a cart up the slope. Siyu, what brings you here with a cart? Qin Li inquired. Senior brother, I am about to leave the sect for 3 years. And I have loaded all the food onto this cart for you to eat. Siyu replied with a touch of innocence, rubbing her nose. 3 years. A single cart will hardly suffice. Qin Li muttered to himself. Heave. Qin Li stood before the cottage, watching Siyu struggle to maneuver the cart, unable to resist using his energy to give it a gentle push from behind. Soon, Siyu successfully brought the cart to Qin Li's side. This is wine. And this is cured meat. Siyu stepped into the carriage, emerging with several jars of wine and meat. Half an hour later, Qin Li found himself surrounded by the bounty unloaded from the carriage, a feast of wine and meat. Sister, what mission took you 3 years? Qin Li inquired while indulging in some fruit. Master instructed me to accompany her to the desolate northwest in search of a rare medicinal herb. It will take no less than 3 years, Siyu replied. When do we depart? Qin Li could not help but ask. Master said to prepare tonight. We shall leave the sect tomorrow, she answered. Understood. Be cautious while you are away. Your cultivation is still low, so stay close to your master, Qin Li advised. Siyu nodded. Being away is no trivial matter. Brother, heed my 3 words of wisdom. Do not meddle in others' affairs. Do not seek to be a hero. And above all, preserve your own life. I will remember, brother, Siyu assured him with a nod. After exchanging a few more words, Qin Li sent Siyu on her way. He placed the food inside the small hut, leaving the jars of wine outside. Earlier, Siyu mentioned that the selection for the junior sect master had already begun. It is uncertain which of my fellow disciples will be elected. Lu Shan, Wang Haoyue, Wang Shan, and Li Fei are among those most likely to contend for the position of junior sect master. Qin Li mused as he stroked his chin, gazing toward the main peak. The fellow disciples he mentioned were mostly his contemporaries vying for the title of junior sect master. Now that he had been demoted, it was likely that one among them would ascend to that position. He wondered if they would bear any animosity toward him in the future. But it seemed that such matters no longer concerned him. With that thought, Qin Li turned and walked toward the center of the graveyard, determined to cultivate and strive for the strength needed to protect himself in this world. 3 years swiftly passed. Qin Li sat cross-legged outside the hut, feeling the powerful true energy coursing through him. Throughout these 3 years, he had remained here, diligently checking in daily. He traversed the entire periphery of the graveyard, signing in before the gravestones each day. He received rewards such as the Mountain River Order for signing in at the gravestone of the 56th generation ancestor of the Qin sect, the Falling Leaves sword technique for the 85th generation sect master, the Starfall fist for the 96th generation ancestor, and 10 youth elixirs for the 100th generation sect master. Over these 3 years, Qin Li had exhausted the check-in locations, accumulating over 5,000 marrow cleansing pills. Most of these pills had been consumed, significantly elevating his cultivation to an astounding level. Presently, Qin Li could not discern his exact realm. He merely sensed he was far stronger than before his cultivation was crippled. If his pre-crisis strength served as a benchmark, he believed he could now easily defeat tens of thousands. It had been 3 years, yet Siyu had not returned. Qin Li stood at the edge, gazing down toward the foot of the mountain. Countless times he stood at the precipice, hoping to catch sight of that little plump girl's return. For some reason, he found himself somewhat fondly concerned for her well-being. In the grand hall of the Qin sect, Qing Feng stood at the elevated platform, furrowing his brow as he observed the approaching figure below. A bloodied youth lay upon a stretcher. Esteemed elders, Elder Yunhe is currently trapped in the northwestern desert, and one of our elders is willing to venture forth to rescue her. Qing Feng addressed the assembly. Elder Yunhe, a cultivator of the nascent soul stage, had fallen into peril. Thus, the elder who would undertake her rescue must possess at least the strength of the Void Realm. However, our sect is limited to 3 elders at this level: the Grand Elder, the 3rd Elder, and the 5th Elder. Presently, the 5th Elder is away. The 3rd Elder is missing, and the Grand Elder is occupied with safeguarding the Spirit Stone Mine. An elder spoke up, offering this counsel. Upon hearing these words, many of the elders within the hall wore expressions of despair. Their reluctance to act did not stem from a lack of will, but rather from an inability to spare anyone. So, does that mean we shall do nothing? Qing Feng scanned the room, his gaze cold as he directed his words toward the elder who had spoken. Master, Elder Lucier did not mean it that way. We certainly wish to save her. However, the real challenge lies in deciding how to proceed and who to send. Another elder interjected, clarifying the previous statement. I understand. Let the Grand Elder undertake the rescue. I shall personally guard the Spirit Stone Mine as a precaution, Qing Feng concluded, realizing that he could no longer rely on the elders present, and that he must take matters into his own hands. Chapter 5. Riding the sword for 1,000 miles, a single strike to vanquish the void. In the Qin Sect's graveyard, Qin Li placed a hand over his chest, feeling a sense of foreboding. It seemed that misfortune loomed on the horizon. It is often said that a martial artist, upon reaching a certain level of cultivation, can transform calamity into fortune and sense impending doom. Is it possible that the girl has encountered trouble? Qin Li paced back and forth in front of his dwelling. Just moments ago, he sensed a frail presence entering the grand hall. Could it be the girl? Qin Li stroked his chin, frowning as he gazed toward the sect's main hall. With his current cultivation, enveloping the grand hall with his spiritual sense posed no challenge. Never mind, I shall investigate myself, he decided, deeming it prudent to ascertain the situation firsthand. As his words faded, he activated a secret technique to conceal his form and soared towards the grand hall. Upon reaching the entrance, he overheard the news of Elder Yunha's entrapment in the northwestern desert. Elder Yunha was none other than Siyu's master. With her in distress, it was highly likely that Siyu was also ensnared in the same predicament. In the next instant, Qin Li ascended into the air, his Xianjian, immortal sword, soaring from his palm to land steadily at his feet. To rescue, he declared, and with that, he flew forth upon his sword. Arriving in the northwestern desert in less than half a day, the vastness of the northwestern desert was overwhelming. He regretted his haste and wished he had taken the time to gather more information regarding its expanse. Hovering in midair, he stared at the immense desert, feeling momentarily dazed. The northwestern desert stretched endlessly, encompassing thousands of Qin Sect's territories, with sand covering the ground. Well, I shall search slowly, Qin Li sighed, resigning himself to the arduous task of scouring the vast desert. In a certain sinkhole within the northwestern desert, 2 women and 1 man sat facing each other. Among them, a young man and woman appeared to be merely 15 or 16 years of age, while the remaining woman looked to be in her 40s, a middle-aged matron. Upon closer inspection, it became evident that all 3 bore injuries. The most grievous was the young man, whose right hand had entirely vanished, leaving only an empty sleeve. The 2 women were somewhat better off, though their bodies were smeared with blood and dirt. Master, can Brother Jiawen reach the sect now? Asked a stunningly beautiful girl with a graceful figure, her voice tinged with uncertainty as she addressed the middle-aged woman. It should be soon. Though I am unsure who the sect will send, the older woman replied, gently stroking the girl's hair in an attempt to provide comfort. Do not be afraid. At that moment, a voice reached their ears. Esteemed elder, may I inquire where you hail from and how you came to wander into this place? The young man gasped for breath, suppressing his pain as he questioned her. We came from the west, drawn here by a flickering red light. Believing there to be treasures emerging, the woman replied, glancing nervously at the sealed entrance. This was the sole passage in and out of the pit, where an intense battle had recently unfolded. Inside the cave, they were safe, but outside lay the corpses of enormous apes, sprawled in pools of blood. Young brother, how did you enter? The middle-aged woman inquired. Like you, I believe there to be treasures, the man answered. Coughing violently, the woman suddenly spewed blood, staining the cave walls crimson. Master, are you all right? The girl exclaimed. See you, if I cannot hold on. I will do everything in my power to ensure you and this young brother escape. Once outside, I hope you can take my disciple to Qin Sect, the elder, Yunha, declared. I will, the young man replied earnestly, nodding. See you, time is running out. Those beasts will launch another attack soon. I will cover your escape with this young brother, Elder Yunha warned, hearing the low growls from outside the cave, foretelling the impending assault. Suddenly, a thunderous noise echoed as an ape broke into the cave. This formidable beast, robust and covered in brown fur, approached the trio in a half-erect stance. You dare trespass upon my clan's altar? You humans seek death. It bellowed, revealing its ability to speak. Hearing the words of the beast, both Yunha and Siyu, along with the young man, realized the gravity of their predicament. A beast capable of speech possessed a cultivation level no less than that of the cave void realm. Among them, Yunha was the most powerful, a divine spirit realm warrior, yet even he could not contend with a cave void realm demon. In terms of cultivation, beasts were far superior to humans. Furthermore, behind this cave void ape, there were dozens of other apes at the divine spirit and purple mansion realms waiting outside. Siyu and the young man's cultivation levels were merely at the innate stage, insufficient to even serve as a meal for the beasts. It was over. Their chances of escape were dwindling, and it was time to fight desperately. The young man drew his long sword, facing the monkey with an unwavering resolve. The reason Elder Yunha was able to assist their escape was primarily due to the fact that during the fierce battle, the highest-ranked demon monkey they encountered was merely at the spirit transformation stage. Fortunately, as an elder of the Qin Sect, Elder Yunha possessed considerable combat prowess. sustaining only severe injuries while managing to reach this place and seal the cave entrance. Now, with a formidable demon of the void realm approaching. It was indeed remarkable that Elder Yunha could withstand even a single strike, let alone provide cover for their retreat. They were no longer in the same league. Master Siyu approached Elder Yunha from behind, drawing her sword and assuming a defensive stance. Siyu, it appears our fated bond as master and disciple concludes here. We shall meet again in our next life, Elder Yunha said as he rose from the ground, palms pressed together, channeling all his vital energy for one final stand. Even if they could not defeat the monkey, they were determined to inflict some injury upon it today. Kill my kin, and you shall perish. As his words fell, the monkey lunged forward, its fist aimed directly at Elder Yunha. Recognizing the elder's superior cultivation, the monkey understood that the first to be eliminated must be him. Especially considering that most of the demon monkeys lying in pools of blood outside were slain by Elder Yunha, with its arms glowing an ominous green. The monkey unleashed a force that seemed to challenge the heavens themselves upon Elder Yunha. Damn it! Elder Yunha immediately summoned his vital energy to block the attack. Bang! A deafening sound reverberated as Elder Yunha was struck, sent crashing violently against the wall. Uffed! Blood spewed from Elder Yunha's mouth. Master! Siyu cried out in alarm. In the next moment, the monkey appeared behind Siyu, raising its fist to strike her down. Swish! At that instant, a flash of white light surged forth, heavenly slash. A powerful shout echoed as the white light enveloped the monkey. In the next heartbeat, a thunderous roar erupted. As the white light dissipated, the monkey's body appeared cleaved in two, blood spraying like a fountain within the chasm. Senior brother? Siyu stood frozen, her voice trembling as she gazed at the newcomer. Just as she thought her end had come, she had faintly heard Qin Li's voice. Turning her head, she witnessed a white flash, and the monkey fell lifelessly. Qin Li, senior brother, Siyu exclaimed, covering her mouth in astonishment. As the white light faded, she saw a young man clad in a green robe, wielding a long sword. Upon closer inspection, who else could it be but Qin Li? Little girl, I told you before leaving, when in danger, do not just stand there foolishly. Find a way out. Qin Li approached Siyu, playfully tapping her on the head. Thud. He chastised her, feeling exasperated. Senior brother. Siyu rubbed her eyes, confirming that the figure before her was indeed her senior brother. Without regard for the sticky blood on her, she rushed to embrace Qin Li in sheer joy. Don't touch me, you're filthy. Qin Li swiftly sidestepped, moving to Elder Yunha's side. Take this. Qin Li produced a medicinal pill and placed it in Elder Yunha's mouth. Elder Yunha now lies in a state of unconsciousness, completely unaware of the events that have just transpired. Senior brother Siyu was about to speak when Qin Li interrupted, declaring, we shall reminisce later. First, I must deal with this pack of beasts. With his sword drawn, he charged out of the cave. The clang of his sword resonated as his intent radiated outward, accompanied by the deep roars of the beasts. In a matter of moments, Qin Li re-entered the cave, still clutching the sword of slaying immortals, under Siyu's astonished gaze. Is that truly you, my senior brother? Siyu inquired, her expression filled with confusion as she examined the bloodied Qin Li. It seems your cultivation has been crippled, rendering you unable to bear burdens or wield a weapon. How then did you slay a formidable beast of the cave void realm with a single stroke? She furrowed her brow, disbelief etched on her face. Anyone witnessing this would find it hard to fathom. How could one possibly transform from a powerless individual into an unparalleled force capable of vanquishing a cave void beast in just 3 years? By the way, who are you? Qin Li, still gripping the sword of slaying immortals, stepped further inside, sheathing the weapon as he regarded the slender, beautiful young woman before him. Chapter 6. The transformations of women. Qin Li gazed at the woman, whose figure was graceful and whose features were striking. Upon his arrival, he sensed a familiarity. Yet as he sifted through his memories of all the well-formed women he knew, none matched her. This junior sister. May I inquire if you have seen my junior sister Siyu? Qin Li bowed respectfully to Siyu. As soon as he finished speaking, Siyu erupted into laughter, replying, Senior brother. Have you forgotten your own junior sister? It is I, Siyu. She twirled around, pointing at herself as she spoke. Stunned, Qin Li stared at the slender figure before him. The next moment, he shook his head vigorously in disbelief. Impossible. Junior sister Siyu was so short, and her legs were as thick as 3 of my arms. How could you possibly be her? Qin Li asserted, refusing to accept that his junior sister had changed so drastically over the past 3 years. Is this truly you, Siyu? Qin Li inquired, leaning closer, his brow furrowed in skepticism. He reached out to pinch her cheek, probing if her visage was merely a mask. What are you doing? Siyu exclaimed, taking several steps back. I just want to confirm if it's really you. Qin Li explained, still incredulous. Yes, Siyu nodded. How could this be? Such a transformation in just 3 years. Qin Li remained in a state of disbelief, utterly unconvinced. Senior brother, 3 years certainly brings change, Siyu replied. A slight smirk on her lips. They say women undergo 18 transformations. This indeed holds true, Qin Li remarked, his tone filled with astonishment. 3 years, beyond even Qin Li. Elder Yunhe, who had always been by her side, found it incredible, though she had witnessed Siyu's growth. Compared to Qin Li, who encountered the final product all at once. Elder Yunhe was somewhat more composed. Should you return to the sect now, you would undoubtedly become the goddess of our order. Allow me to extend my heartfelt congratulations in advance, Qin Li proclaimed, clasping his hands in a gesture of respect. Upon hearing his words, a delicate blush graced Siyu's cheeks, rendering her bashful. Do not jest with me, brother. How is my master faring? Siyu suddenly recalled her mentor and urgently inquired. After Qin Li had dealt with the cave's formidable void realm ape, he swiftly approached Elder Yunhe to assess her injuries and administered a healing pill. He was certain that Elder Yunhe would survive. She is fine, but what of you? Are you unscathed? Qin Li asked with genuine concern. I am well. Merely sustaining minor injuries, Siyu replied. It is a relief to hear that. You are indeed fortunate, despite the numerous void realm apes. You managed to slay a considerable number, Qin Li remarked. Upon exiting the cave, he had noticed several ape corpses strewn about. Unmistakably the result of Elder Yunhe and her companion's efforts. Thanks to my master's intervention, had it not been for her, we might have perished, Siyu said, her heart pounding with residual fear. Upon entering the cave, they had faced a fierce onslaught from the apes, but Elder Yunhe had valiantly led them to safety. In summary, it brings me joy to see you both unharmed. Qin Li responded with a smile and a nod. Brother, I am grateful for your timely assistance. A stranger's voice interjected, reaching Qin Li's ears. Who are you? Qin Li inquired, turning to the source of the voice. A young man approached, cradling his arm. The youth paused momentarily at Qin Li's question, then chuckled softly, scratching the back of his head as he introduced himself. I am Su Wenshan, a disciple from the nearby city of Shuzhou. Su Wenshan, what brings you here? Qin Li asked cautiously, harboring suspicions about the young man's intentions. Brother, this Su Wenshan is here for the same reason as us, seeking treasure due to the emergence of a rare artifact. Siyu interjected, sensing the tension between the two. Upon hearing Siyu's explanation and sensing Su Wenshan's innate cultivation level, Qin Li relaxed his guard. A mere junior of the acquired realm posed no threat to him. Since fate has intertwined our paths, let us depart together, Qin Li invited Su Wenshan. Thank you, brother, Su Wenshan replied gratefully. Siyu, carry your master. We must leave. The air here is quite unbearable, Qin Li instructed, gesturing towards Elder Yunhe. Understood, Siyu responded, quickly moving to lift Elder Yunhe onto her back. Following Qin Li out of the cave, as they emerged, both Siyu and Su Wenshan were met with a sight that induced immediate retching. The entire secret realm was littered with the carcasses of void realm apes, some hanging from trees, others buried in the earth, with severed limbs scattered about. The gruesome scene was too much for the youthful duo, who promptly doubled over in disgust. After a brief moment, they ceased their retching, wiping their mouths with their sleeves. Qin Li surveyed the field strewn with corpses, feeling no discomfort, for each of these lifeless bodies had fallen by his own hand. At the cave's entrance, Siyu was about to speak when a low growl echoed from afar. Another one has escaped? Qin Li mused aloud. Moments earlier, when he had emerged wielding his sword to slay the long-armed monkeys, he had seen to it that none remained, nor had he missed any sounds. To his astonishment, one had indeed evaded him. Without further ado, Qin Li summoned his celestial slayer's sword, gripping it firmly. Next, Siyu and Su Wenshan heard him bellow, heavenly slash. The air rang with a resounding clang. In an instant, a visible white sword energy erupted forth, racing towards the source of the growl. Every wall and stone in its path was severed with astonishing force, leaving Siyu and Su Wenshan spellbound, jaws agape. In the following moment, a deep roar reverberated, followed by the unmistakable sound of a heavy object hitting the ground. It's done, Qin Li declared as he sheathed the celestial slayer's sword, lightly brushing off the dust from his garments. Brother, are you still the Qin Li I once knew? Siyu inquired. Indeed. What of it? Do you wish to test me? He replied with a hint of pride. Not at all. It's just that your strength. Did I not mention? Do not forget, I was the former deputy leader of Qin sect, Qin Li stated with an air of arrogance. A quarter of an hour later, Qin Li, Siyu, Su Wenshan, and Elder Yunhe arrived in the desert. As soon as they ascended, Qin Li approached Siyu and Su Wenshan with a serious demeanor. Junior sister, Su Xiaoyu, I need to discuss something with you. The revival pill? I have a multitude. Qin Li began, standing before them earnestly. Siyu, Su Xiaoyu, I implore you to keep what you witnessed today to yourselves. I do not wish for anyone to speak of today's events. Upon hearing this, Siyu and Su Wansan exchanged puzzled glances, uncertainty clouding their expressions. They were at a loss regarding the implication of Qin Li's words. I do not wish to expose my strength prematurely, Qin Li stated plainly. Understood, brother, Siyu responded, instantly grasping the significance of his statement. A discarded deputy leader possessing the capability to slay beasts of the Void Realm. If this were to spread, it would undoubtedly draw unwanted attention. Furthermore, with the Qin sect currently in the throes of electing a new deputy leader, the revelation of such an extraordinary strength from one deemed useless could incite jealousy and turmoil within the sect. Brother Qin Li, I vow not to betray you, Siyu declared, raising 3 fingers to the heavens in solemn oath. No need for that. I trust you, Qin Li said with a gentle smile, ruffling Siyu's hair. I would not betray you either, Su Wansan added hesitantly. How could I? I am not even a disciple of your Qin sect. Who would believe me? Su Wansan mused inwardly. Su Xiaoyu, it's not that I don't trust you, but unforeseen circumstances are always a possibility. You seem to be a lone cultivator. Why not join my Qin sect? Qin Li remarked with a smile, patting Su Wanshan on the back. Su Wanshan felt a bit awkward and scratched his head. Alas, had I known that I should have fabricated a sect during my self-introduction. However, it appears that inventing a sect now would be futile. This individual's prowess is astonishing. Having effortlessly slain a Void Realm demon beast with a single strike, I might as well follow them sincerely. After a fierce internal struggle, Su Wanshan nodded obediently, stating, Senior brother, I will return to Qin sect with you. I have long yearned for it, and now my wish is fulfilled. Indeed, those who recognize the times are true talents. I see that Su Xiaoyu is indeed a talent, Qin Li replied with a smile. Unbeknownst to Su Wanshan, a strand of sword energy had silently found refuge within his body. Should he dare to reveal today's events, that energy would erupt, annihilating him utterly. Please, I am undeserving of such praise, Su Wanshan said, shrinking back slightly and waving his hand. Siyu, when Su Xiaoyu enters the sect, please take him under your wing. After all, it was I who invited him, Qin Li instructed, turning to Siyu with a grin. Siyu nodded, fully aware of Qin Li's intentions. His notion of taking care was, in truth, a directive for her to discreetly monitor Su Wanshan, ensuring he would not speak out of turn. Then I must trouble you, senior sister Siyu. Not at all. It is only fitting to call you junior brother Su this time, Siyu replied with a smile, her 2 small tiger teeth peeking out, giving her an endearing, playful appearance. Seeing the interaction between Siyu and Su Wanshan, Qin Li nodded in satisfaction and cautioned Siyu. The most crucial matter is your master. When she awakens, inform her that a peerless expert passed by and kindly offered assistance. Understood, senior brother, Siyu affirmed with a nod. Well then, I shall take my leave. Please take these few pills to alleviate your injuries, Qin Li said, producing several gray-brown pills from thin air. 6th grade pills, rejuvenation pills. Su Wanshan exclaimed in astonishment upon seeing the pills in Qin Li's hand. The rejuvenation pill, a treasure of immense value in Suzhou City, is said to restore any injury, provided one remains alive, regardless of its severity. I never expected my senior brother to possess so many. Su Wanshan gazed at the pills with starry eyes. Siyu, understanding the value of the rejuvenation pills, cautiously extended her hand to receive one. Qin Li chuckled at her cautious demeanor, saying, There is no need for such wariness. They are merely pills. I have plenty more. So if you require any in the future, just let me know. Thank you, senior brother, Su Wanshan responded immediately. He was well aware of the rejuvenation pill's worth and had personally witnessed its efficacy. It was indeed a prime healing elixir. There are hardly a few of these pills in the entire Suzhou City, and yet my senior brother casually produces 7 or 8. How impressive, Su Wanshan exclaimed, taking a rejuvenation pill from Siyu's hand. He carefully brought the pill to his nose, inhaling its fragrant aroma. This marked the first encounter for him with the rejuvenating elixir, a potion of immense value. He was reluctant to simply swallow it. He wished to savor the fragrant aroma it emitted. Enough with the sniffing, just consume it. When you return to the Qin sect, I shall present you with a few more, Qin Li remarked, unable to stifle his amusement at Su Wanshan's demeanor. The rejuvenating elixir was a reward Qin Li had received for his diligent attendance, and he possessed no fewer than a dozen vials, containing nearly 1,000 of these precious pills. Offering a few to Su Wanshan would hardly dent his resources. Very well, Su Wanshan replied, promptly swallowing the elixir and beginning its refinement. Siyu, you should eat quickly. I will guard you both here, and once you have recovered, I will return to the sect, Qin Li instructed Siyu. Like Su Wanshan, Siyu stood still, carefully examining the several invaluable elixirs in her hands. In an unexpected moment, she used her fingernail to scrape a bit of the pill and placed it in her mouth. Qin Li was momentarily rendered speechless by her actions. They seemed so naive, akin to country bumpkins. He mused that perhaps it was time to provide Cu with a more affluent education. In his heart, he had always treated Cu as his own daughter, and he found himself questioning the sect's methods of cultivation over the past 3 years. Meanwhile, he dismissed Su Wenshan, who was merely a passerby. As long as he did not betray himself, Qin Li had little interest in his affairs. After all, Cu was the beacon of light during his darkest times. Cu, hurry and eat. I will ensure you receive more later, Qin Li urged, gesturing for her to consume the elixir quickly, hoping to alleviate her apparent naivety. Thank you, senior brother, Cu replied, immediately consuming one of the elixirs to heal her wounds. At that moment, Qin Li approached Elder Yunha, squatted down, and delivered a swift blow to the back of her head. Get some rest, Elder Yunha. If you awaken and see me, I fear it may not merely be a knockout, but rather your demise, he muttered, gazing at Elder Yunha. Meanwhile, Cu and Su Wenshan remained oblivious to the events transpiring around them, diligently seated on the ground, refining the elixir's effects. Qin Li turned to observe this scene with a slight smile, then settled down to begin cultivating the techniques he had acquired through his attendance. Chapter 8. Return to the sect. The northwest desert was desolate to the extreme, with endless yellow sands and frequent dust storms. The secret realm where Elder Yunha and the others had entered was in stark contrast, filled with trees, flowers, and hidden rivers, creating a striking disparity. Perhaps it was the realm's hospitable environment that allowed the gibbons to thrive there. Having completed his meditation, Qin Li scooped up the golden sand from the ground, watching it trickle through his fingers. Shuzhou City, he murmured to himself. Shuzhou City was one of the significant cities in the northwest desert, the closest to the Qinyan sect. Could this lad be the infamous waste from Shuzhou City? Qin Li pondered, a frown creasing his brow as he recalled an amusing anecdote. As Qin Li embarked on his quest from the Qinyan sect in search of Cu, the first city he traversed was Shuzhou. Upon entering, he sought to gather information. While he was inquiring, he overheard a conversation concerning a notorious wastrel from the northwestern desert, known as Su Wenshan. It struck Qin Li that this very individual, once deemed incapable of cultivation, was now before him, refining a rejuvenation pill as a martial artist of the acquired realm. Half a year ago, he was a mere failure. Now, after a period of silence, he piqued Qin Li's interest. Seated upon the sandy ground, Qin Li scrutinized Su Wenshan intently. An elderly gentleman, perhaps? His gaze shifted to the finger of Su Wenshan, which bore a ring. Intrigued, Qin Li regarded the ring with a knowing glance. Recognizing that he had encountered a character reminiscent of a protagonist, the more he observed the ring, the more he sensed its significance. It exuded an ethereal quality, easily overlooked unless one paid close attention. This was why he had only just now noticed the ring adorning Su Wenshan's finger. If indeed he were an old man, he would likely be the wastrel spoken of in the northwestern desert's tales. Conversely, if he were not, he must have experienced a fortuitous encounter, possessing some treasure. In the span of 6 months, before his cultivation was hindered, Qin Li had demonstrated exceptional aptitude, advancing from a novice to the late stage of Qi induction. It was implausible without some hidden boon. How fascinating it was to have such a person beneath his very eyes. He mused that perhaps they would yield unexpected surprises in the future. Are you ready? Qin Li suddenly inquired as he noticed Cu opening her eyes. Cu approached him, nodding affirmatively. Then I shall return to the sect. Please exercise caution, particularly regarding Su Wenshan. He may not be as simple as you perceive. I will leave you a sword Qi for protection. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Li produced a talisman and handed it to Cu. This talisman contains a condensed sword Qi capable of slaying those in the void realm. Furthermore, you may observe this sword Qi daily, which will greatly benefit your cultivation. I understand, senior brother. Cu accepted the talisman, examining it carefully before tenderly placing it into her pocket as if it were a cherished treasure. A sword capable of vanquishing a void realm warrior represented Qin Li's most potent sword Qi at present. With this safeguard, Cu's safety was significantly assured. I must take my leave now. The sect's Grand Elder is en route for rescue, and I suspect he will arrive shortly. Qin Li stated to Cu. Be careful on your journey, senior brother. Upon uttering this, Cu felt that her words were superfluous. Her senior brother's current prowess could dispatch a void realm warrior with a single strike, rendering caution unnecessary. Understood, I shall be off. With that, Qin Li declared, and with a clang, the celestial slashing sword soared forth, landing at his feet. Riding the sword, he soared into the sky like a shooting star, vanishing from sight in mere moments. Ah, the feeling of returning home is undeniably splendid. Qin Li stretched and reclined onto his bed. Qin Li has returned to his sect, back within the confines of his thatched cottage. The prowess of those at the cave void realm is no longer a match for him. He wonders if he could contend with those at the tribulation crossing realm. Qin Li picked up a straw and placed it between his lips. After the battle in the northwestern desert, he has come to a profound realization regarding his own combat strength, capable of effortlessly dispatching beings of the Cave Void Realm. Cave Void Realm beasts are significantly more formidable than their human counterparts. Thus, if he can eliminate the former, it follows that he can easily overcome the latter as well. However, it is imperative that he continues to sign in diligently, for this world is fraught with peril. In the mere expanse of the northwestern desert, beings of the Cave Void Realm exist, and one can only speculate what terrifying entities lie in wait within other major sects and forbidden zones. Qin Li feels it is prudent to remain cautious and continue his discreet sign-ins without venturing out of the sect until he has amassed sufficient strength. 3 days later, he signed in at the tombstone of the 96th generation sect master of Qin Li sect, receiving a puppet of the Cave Void Realm as a reward. At the tombstone of the 3rd generation sect master, he received a drop of Dragon Emperor's blood. This location allows for repeated sign-ins until the system indicates that the option has been exhausted. Over these 3 days, Qin Li has been steadfastly signing in at the cemetery, finally encountering a site where he can sign in repeatedly, resolutely deciding not to let this opportunity slip away without exhausting it. Senior brother, we are back." As Qin Li sat at the entrance, absorbing the Dragon Emperor's blood, the voice of Cu echoed from the foot of the mountain, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. By the time Qin Li lifted his head after finishing the blood, Cu had already arrived. Notably, she was not alone. She had also brought Su Wenshan along. Ever since Su Wenshan refined the revitalization pill, Elder Yunhe had awakened shortly thereafter, and both Cu and Su Wenshan had orchestrated an elaborate tale to explain the events to Elder Yunhe. Their storytelling was nothing short of remarkable, claiming that a peerless master had passed by, intervening in a moment of injustice, and ultimately providing them with the precious elixir to aid in their recovery. As they spoke, they produced the revitalization pill for Elder Yunhe to see. It was this very pill that led Elder Yunhe to fully believe in the existence of a higher power. After all, what ordinary individual could possibly bestow such a treasured item upon them? Consequently, Elder Yunhe extended an invitation to Su Wenshan to join Qin Li sect, to which Su Wenshan readily agreed, as he had already promised Qin Li to enter the sect, making it a seamless transition. "Senior brother, when did you return?" Cu approached Qin Li, covering her mouth as she whispered her inquiry. "When did I return? I never left," Qin Li replied with a chuckle, shaking his head at Cu. His smile seemed to convey to both Cu and Su Wenshan a sense of amusement, as if to say they were jesting. "Senior sister Cu, this senior brother appears unfamiliar. May I ask who he is?" Su Wenshan suddenly realized, respectfully addressing Qin Li. Chapter 9. The arrival of the new young sect master, a teachable child. "I am Qin Li, an ordinary disciple of Qin Li sect." Qin Li introduced himself to Su Wenshan, stating, "I am Su Wenshan. It is an honor to finally meet the esteemed Qin Li. You're too kind. It seems your name carries even greater weight than mine," Qin Li replied with a smile, his gaze drifting to the ring adorning Su Wenshan's finger. Upon hearing Qin Li's words, Su Wenshan's pupils constricted, and he instinctively took a step back, then smiled and said, "Senior brother Qin is jesting. I am merely a newcomer to the Qin Li sect, hardly noteworthy. As for the Northwest Desert, senior brother Qin has surely ventured there. How could you not know of its affairs?" Merely a guess," Qin Li responded. "Senior brother, Su Wenshan is now a disciple of Elder Yunhe," Cu interjected. "Elder Yunhe's disciple, is it? Quite impressive," Qin Li remarked with admiration. As a practitioner of the nascent soul realm, Elder Yunhe's understanding of martial arts is indeed extraordinary, making him a natural mentor for Su Wenshan. "Senior brother, are you aware that the young sect master has been appointed?" Cu suddenly inquired as she approached Qin Li. "Oh, who is it?" Qin Li asked. In just 3 years, the young sect master of Qin Li sect had been established, a fact that did not surprise Qin Li in the slightest. "It is the eldest elder's disciple, named Miao Yu," Cu informed him. "Miao Yu?" Qin Li returned to the room to fetch a tea set, placing it on the stone surface. "I have not heard that name before. Is he a recent addition to the eldest elder's disciples?" He poured 2 cups of tea and handed them to Cu and Su Wenshan. Cu and Su Wenshan accepted the tea, taking a sip and exclaiming, "Excellent tea. This is indeed fine tea. I procured it directly from the sect leader. Its flavor is exquisite." Qin Li chuckled as he poured himself a cup. After savoring a sip, he felt a wave of contentment wash over him. "Senior brother, to my knowledge, Miao Yu became a disciple 4 years ago and has reportedly attained the cultivation level of the divine concealment realm," Cu noted, observing Qin Li's reaction. The establishment of the young sect master was a matter of sensitivity for Qin Li. However, Cu could detect no change in his expression. It seemed the appointment held no relevance for him. "Oh, that is quite commendable. At such a young age to reach the divine concealment realm, surpassing my own level when I was appointed as young sect master," Qin Li mused, pouring himself another cup of tea, which he held delicately, savoring its warmth. Whether the young sect master was appointed or not was entirely inconsequential to him. In Qin Li's eyes, as long as this new young sect master did not interfere with his life, he was indifferent to how the Qin sect was governed. Indeed, possessing the cultivation of the divine concealment realm was fitting for the position of young sect master. When Qin Li had been appointed, he was merely at the foundation establishment stage. Meanwhile, Su Wenshan, seated quietly beside them, observed Qin Li's expressions with keen interest. Just yesterday afternoon, upon entering the Qin sect, he had learned of Qin Li's past. The former young sect master had been stripped of his powers for privately releasing an ancient ferocious beast and was now condemned to guard a grave for 50 years. When Su Wenshan unearthed this information, he was taken aback. The individual capable of slaying a creature of the void realm had been rendered a mere shadow of his former self within the sect, a fact he found difficult to accept. That very night, he sought out Siyu to inquire about the circumstances surrounding this matter. Siyu merely responded, refraining from uttering unnecessary words, content in her ignorance. In truth, she found it utterly bewildering how Qin Li, whose cultivation had been seemingly obliterated, could annihilate a void realm beast with a single sword strike 3 years hence. Her astonishment surpassed even that of Su Wenshan. Someone is coming. Qin Li suddenly set down his teacup and declared. Who? Siyu inquired cautiously, her gaze fixed on the entrance to the mountain. Indeed, as the saying goes, speak of the devil and he shall appear. It seemed that the newly appointed young sect master intended to assert his authority. Qin Li spoke with a smile. Through his spiritual perception, he sensed 3 individuals approaching. Among them, one possessed the cultivation of the divine concealment realm, while the other 2 were martial artists of the Purple Mansion realm. The trio, led by the divine concealment cultivator, advanced toward their location. Celestial Eye. Qin Li's pupils constricted as he instantly recognized that the leader among the 3 was a youthful figure, flanked by 2 familiar Purple Mansion realm elders, the guardians of the sect. Just as he had mentioned the new young sect master, he was about to meet him. Senior brother, what is it? Who is coming? Who is this devil? Siyu asked, puzzled by Qin Li's complex expression. Miao Yu, Qin Li replied, lifting his teacup for a sip. Miao Yu? Siyu gasped in disbelief, rising to peer over the edge of the mountain. Indeed, within her sight, a handsome young man was leading the 3 elders toward her. Who else could it be but Miao Yu? Senior brother, what brings him here? Siyu questioned, glancing between Miao Yu and Qin Li, her expression one of confusion. He might be here to extend his greetings to me, the former young sect master. Qin Li replied with a smile. Why don't you both head into the house? Wait until he leaves before coming out, Qin Li said, gently ushering Siyu and Su Wenshan inside. Exchanging glances, Su Wenshan and Siyu nodded and stepped into the thatched cottage. Qin Li sat cross-legged at the entrance, gazing toward the approaching figures. Moments later, Miao Yu and the 2 elders from the Qin sect arrived. An unexpected guest, Qin Li remarked, leisurely sipping his tea as he regarded the newcomers. Senior brother Qin Li. Miao Yu approached with a warm smile, greeting him, followed closely by the 2 elders. And you are? Qin Li inquired, furrowing his brow at Miao Yu. Miao Yu, undeterred by the question, understood that Qin Li genuinely did not recognize him, as by the time Miao Yu had begun to emerge, Qin Li had already spent over a year guarding the tomb. Severed from the world, it was impossible for Qin Li to have known him. I am Miao Yu, the young sect master of the Qin sect. Miao Yu introduced himself. Oh, so you are the newly appointed young sect master. No wonder you carry yourself with such distinction. Truly remarkable, Qin Li complimented with a smile. You flatter me. When you were the young sect master, you were the one brimming with vigor. I am merely treading the path you once walked, Miao Yu replied, a hint of sarcasm lacing his words, subtly altering the atmosphere. Ah, how times have changed. Do not speak of following in my footsteps. I am far from your level now, lacking the vigor I once had. Qin Li chuckled, shaking his head. Brother, do you truly intend to remain here for all eternity? This place is so dreary and damp, and I observe that you possess no cultivation. How could you endure it for 3 years? Miao Yu expressed his concern towards Qin Li. If one were unaware of the circumstances, they might assume this young sect master was a benevolent individual. However, Qin Li, a cunning old fox, comprehended Miao Yu's intentions. If he wished to leave this place, Miao Yu would undoubtedly facilitate his departure from the sect the very next day, only to find someone to eliminate him along the way. In Miao Yu's eyes, despite Qin Li currently being rendered powerless, devoid of any chance of resurgence, the mere possibility of a return was unsettling. Only death would grant him peace of mind. Qin Li now understood why Miao Yu could carve his path to becoming the young sect master of the Qin sect. This ruthless disposition had already secured him half a victory over the other disciples vying for the position. Chapter 10. Ruthless and unyielding in the Qin sect graveyard. Miao Yu said, Brother, I must be candid with you. There is no place for you within the Qin sect any longer. I can escort you out of the sect. And from that moment forth, you will no longer need to guard the graves. Miao Yu grasped Qin Li's hands with a sorrowful expression, his earnest demeanor causing Qin Li to feel somewhat nauseated. There's no need for that. I am quite content here, relishing the air and the scenery. Qin Li replied with a smile, withdrawing his hands and standing up to gaze at the rows of tombs. Such fine air and scenery in a graveyard? Surely you jest. Miao Yu thought, feeling that Qin Li was being ungrateful. With a complex expression, he remarked, Brother, there is no need to deceive me. I know you are concerned about the sect master causing you trouble. Fear not. As the young sect master, I do possess some authority. Why do you doubt me? Dear brother, I assure you, I am quite well here. Although it may be a tad chilly, the view is expansive and the landscape delightful, Qin Li responded. After several exchanges, Miao Yu realized that resolving matters outside the sect was unlikely, so he said, Brother, I shall take my leave for now. Should you require my assistance, do not hesitate to ask. Miao Yu feigned a grand demeanor as he stood and waved farewell to Qin Li, then departed. Before leaving, he glanced back at the thatched cottage behind Qin Li, nodding as if to acknowledge someone within. Thank you, brother. I shall remember this, Qin Li said with a smile, nodding and waving goodbye to Miao Yu. His outwardly cheerful demeanor belied the contempt swirling within, a true reflection of the current state of affairs between Qin Li and Miao Yu. As he watched Miao Yu and two elder members of the Qin sect depart, Qin Li furrowed his brow and muttered, Can that lad truly discern that someone resides within my cottage? After a moment, once Miao Yu had completely vanished from sight, Qin Li shook his head and called out, Come forth, they have left. Creak. The door of the thatched cottage swung open, and Siyu and Su Wenshan emerged from within. Brother, what does Miao Yu mean by all this? Siyu inquired, her tone laced with confusion. Whatever his intentions, there's an unmistakable air of hostility, Su Wenshan replied. Moments ago, within the thatched cottage, Su Wenshan leaned against the door, eavesdropping on the conversation between Qin Li and Miao Yu, sensing an ominous aura from their presence. What ominous aura? The newly appointed young master merely wished to show compassion towards me, the former young master. There was nothing to concern myself with. Qin Li, with a smile, took out the tea set and poured a cup for both of them. They continued to sip their tea. Qin Li extended his hand with an inviting smile, for these minor characters posed no threat to him whatsoever. Su Wenshan and Siyu exchanged few words, raising their cups to drink. Siyu, junior brother Su, be cautious when encountering Miao Yu in the future. This individual is duplicitous and harbors deep schemes. Both of you, with your unrefined skills and naivety, would be utterly outmatched. Qin Li advised, raising his cup towards them. If Miao Yu were to target Qin Li, it would be tantamount to inviting death. For should Qin Li desire Miao Yu's demise, it would be but a fleeting moment's work. With Qin Li's current prowess, should he eliminate Miao Yu, no one within the Qin sect could impede his escape. However, if Miao Yu were to direct his malice towards Siyu and Su Wenshan, Qin Li might not be able to intervene, as he could not constantly monitor their safety. To eliminate Miao Yu now, while it would prevent future troubles, would undoubtedly throw the entire Qin sect into disarray, thereby disrupting Qin Li's own peace. Furthermore, the position of young master was fraught with sensitivities. The former young master, despite his diminished powers, remained a thorn in the side of many, a splinter lodged in the eyes of the newly appointed young masters, who would inevitably regard Qin Li as a target. Although they perceived him as harmless, he remained a ticking time bomb. Siyu and Su Wenshan nodded in understanding. I shall now present you with a talisman, within which I have sealed a strand of my sword energy. Its power may be modest, yet it possesses the capability to slay a practitioner at the primordial spirit realm with a single strike, Qin Li declared. As he spoke, two talismans appeared in his hand, which he handed over to Siyu and Su Wenshan. They accepted the talismans with expressions of gratitude. Moreover, should this talisman be activated within 100 miles of my vicinity, I will sense it and come to your aid. If not, you shall have to rely on your own fortune. When faced with uncertainties, retreat is the wisest course. Do not attempt to showcase bravado, Qin Li remarked with a smile, pointing at the talismans in their hands. That jest is rather unamusing, senior brother, Siyu replied, tucking the talisman into his pocket, a bitter expression adorning his face as he gazed at Qin Li. Do not dwell on such trivialities. Speaking of which, junior brother Su, I observe that you possess a well-rounded countenance and a robust aura. You are indeed a remarkable talent. Have you considered taking up the mantle of the Qin sect's master? Qin Li inquired with a smile directed at Su Wenshan. Upon hearing these words, Su Wenshan and Siyu were taken aback, unable to comprehend the implications. Su Wenshan found himself at a loss for words, the atmosphere growing awkward in the burial ground. He scratched his head, unsure of how to respond, while Siyu stifled a laugh, observing Su Wenshan's reaction. Qin Li, with a smile, lifted his teacup, watching Su Wenshan intently. At that moment, a chilling wind swept through, and Su Wenshan suddenly realized he had found an excuse to extricate himself. He hurriedly stood up and said, "Senior brother, today I am dressed too lightly. The wind has made me feel somewhat cold. I shall visit you again another day." As soon as he finished speaking, Su Wenshan bowed deeply and fled the scene. Such a child cannot be taught. See you must diligently cultivate. In this world, all power and status derive from your strength. Without sufficient power, one is no different from an ant, Qin Li remarked, raising his teacup and taking a sip as he spoke to Siyu. "Senior brother, your words leave Su Shidi bewildered, and I too am baffled. It has indeed been 3 years, and I find it hard to comprehend what thoughts occupy your mind." Siyu laughed, covering her mouth. "Since Su Shidi has departed, you should leave as well. Keep a close watch on him. Do not let him run amok or speak carelessly. Moreover, you must focus on your cultivation. Within the sword energy talisman I gave you, I have concealed a surprise, and I hope you will uncover it soon." Qin Li advised with a grin. "Understood," Siyu replied before rising to depart. "Miao Yu, you possess some potential. I hope you do not court danger. If you cultivate diligently and cautiously, it will benefit both you and me. Should you stray from this path, however, I will have no choice but to take action." Qin Li concluded, crushing the teacup in his hand until it turned to dust, which then vanished without a trace. In the attic of the Qin sect's young master, the structure faced east, adorned with upturned eaves. The sun reflected off the roof tiles, casting glimmers upon the pond in front of the attic. This 2-story building was extravagantly guarded by 2 sentinels at the entrance, both of whom were martial artists of the Purple Mansion realm. Upon entering the attic, a grand landscape painting captured the eye. It was not an ordinary painting, but rather the legendary Wu Dao map. 2 rows of thick pillars on the first floor were entwined with several soaring cranes, rendered with remarkable lifelikeness. Further ahead, at the top of the first floor, there was a chair radiating a comforting glow. Seated upon it was a youth, while a middle-aged man in black robes stood before him. The man had an aquiline nose, aged hands marked by wrinkles, yet exuded a formidable presence, occasionally emanating a hint of a deathly aura. "Elder He Yun, assist me in eliminating this Qin Li. Once the task is completed, I will grant your corpse-controlling sect's request and deliver our ancestors' remains to you," the youth sitting in the chair stated. "Are you certain?" the man in black inquired. "Certain," the youth nodded, a cruel expression crossing his face. "Very well," the black-robed man replied curtly before turning to leave. "Qin Li, you drink the cup of hospitality only to seek punishment. You are courting death," the youth muttered fiercely to himself. This youth was none other than Miao Yu, the young master of the Qin sect, who had recently returned from visiting Qin Li. At this moment, Miao Yu was engulfed in murderous intent, his instincts warning him that Qin Li was not to be underestimated. To eradicate any future threats, dispatching someone to investigate Qin Li was the most prudent course of action. Chapter 11. The corpse-controlling sect in the Qin sect's burial grounds. Qin Li sat cross-legged on the ground, quietly meditating and cultivating. The chilling wind howled around him. A gust of wind stirred the hem of Qin Li's garments, causing them to flutter, while it tousled his hair. Just as a stray lock clung to the corner of his mouth, a flash of white light erupted. The sharp clash of metal echoed through the air. A man in black robes appeared behind Qin Li, wielding a short sword that met the edge of Qin Li's celestial slaying sword in a fierce collision. "Did Miao Yu send you?" Qin Li inquired, his tone icy. "Die." The black-robed man's pupils constricted as he hastily withdrew his short sword, then thrust downward with intent to kill Qin Li. "Heh, I cannot die," Qin Li retorted just as the celestial slaying sword unleashed a torrent of sword energy, sending the black-robed man flying. "Is this all you've got?" Qin Li chuckled, approaching the fallen man, the sword tip aimed menacingly at his chin, ready to sever his head should he make any erratic move. "Impossible." The black-robed man's expression was complex. Disbelief etched on his face as he struggled to fathom how a seemingly useless individual could possess such formidable strength, rendered utterly powerless by a mere sword strike. "Speak. Who sent you? I may consider sparing your life." Qin Li's lips curled into a fierce grin. "No way." A flicker of determination crossed the black-robed man's eyes as he resolutely shook his head. "You have spirit." Qin Li admired the man's fortitude inwardly, before swiftly raising his sword, the man's head rolling aside. "A Yuan Shun realm warrior sent to assassinate me. What a preposterous notion." "Very well, Miao Yu, you have truly sought your own demise." Qin Li's eyes glinted with ferocity as he clenched his fists, soaring towards the residence of the young sect master. Upon arriving at Miao Yu's abode, a lofty pavilion, Qin Li invoked his true energy to render himself invisible, deftly evading the 2 guards at the entrance and stepping into the main hall on the first floor. This pavilion was the dwelling of the Qin sect's young masters throughout the ages. It was here that Qin Li had resided before being assigned to guard the tomb, living in considerable comfort. Alas, the dilapidated thatched hut he inhabited now was hardly comparable to even a single pillar of this place. Elder Hongyun has been gone for quite some time. Could something have happened? He pondered. The Control Corps sect, lurking in the shadows, was notoriously sluggish in their endeavors. Yet they still aspired to unify the continent. What a farce. Just as Qin Li ascended to the second floor, Miao Yu's voice echoed in his ears. Control Corps sect? Qin Li furrowed his brow, contemplating the name. The Control Corps sect was an ancient sect, much like the Qin sect, boasting a lineage of over 10,000 years. Yet both had fallen into decline. The downfall of Qin sect stemmed from the absence of a new generation of formidable warriors, while the demise of the Control Corps sect was entirely self-inflicted. Its most abhorrent technique involved the manipulation of others' corpses. Initially, the Control Corps sect had developed in secret, much like Qin Li. However, in later years, the sect's leader fortuitously obtained the corpse of an ancestor from the esteemed Yaoqi Palace, leading to a dramatic shift in their tactics. They commenced a large-scale invasion of various sects across the continent. The Control Corps sect, having clandestinely pilfered the remains of many sect leaders and ancestors, had already garnered the ire of numerous sections. At the outset, when the corpse-controlling sect's contemporary patriarch employed the corpse of an ancient ancestor from the Yaoqi Palace to assault it, the entire Yaoqi Palace found itself utterly helpless, unable to defend against the attack. Subsequently, at great cost, Yaoqi Palace summoned an ancient ancestor, albeit one whose lifeblood had long been drained, to barely resolve the threat posed by the patriarch's corpse. As this corpse was vanquished, the corpse-controlling sect found itself akin to a kite severed from its string, retreating in disarray. With Yaoqi Palace leading the charge, seeking vengeance and redress for grievances, they advanced against the corpse-controlling sect. Thus, the sect was obliterated, with only a pitiful few managing to escape. However, those who fled retained their insatiable ambition, establishing bases throughout the continent. These individuals were akin to vermin, utterly repugnant. Yet, the art of corpse manipulation allowed them to control corpses far superior in cultivation, rendering adversaries powerless. They could neither combat nor ignore the threat, as the ancestral corpses were perpetually at risk of being commandeered. Eventually, Yaoqi Palace took decisive action, dispatching disciples to eradicate the remnants of the corpse-controlling sect across various locales. A century passed, and the corpse-controlling sect was thought to have faded into obscurity, presumed entirely eradicated by Yaoqi Palace. Yet unexpectedly, Qin Li encountered whispers of this sect once more. To his astonishment, Miao Yu had dispatched disciples from the corpse-controlling sect to assassinate him. No wonder, he mused, that when he struck down Miao Yu, he was enveloped in a dense aura of corpse energy, which he had initially attributed to the aura of a graveyard. But why had he not witnessed Miao Yu employing the art of corpse manipulation? Qin Li pondered, furrowing his brow. The elder from the corpse-controlling sect, Black Cloud, possessed cultivation at the Yuanshan realm. Initially, upon learning that Qin Li lacked any cultivation, he refrained from utilizing his corpse manipulation techniques to launch an attack. After all, targeting a mere mortal, an individual devoid of any power, would be an extravagant use of resources. It was akin to using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Thus, Black Cloud opted not to unleash the corpses, choosing instead to engage Qin Li directly with a dagger. Little did he anticipate that his negligence would lead to Miao Yu could not help but think to himself, Miao Yu, my junior brother. I did not anticipate our reunion would come so swiftly. The last time we met, it seems I did not present you with a gift. Today, I bring something for you. I hope you do not disdain it. Qin Li grinned, casually tossing the severed head of the Black Cloud elder forward. In the next moment, Miao Yu beheld a head rolling to his feet. Upon closer inspection, he realized it belonged to the very Black Cloud elder he had just been muttering about. Chapter 12. Junior brother, your background is rather formidable, isn't it? How could this be? How could the Black Cloud elder be dead? Miao Yu's pupils constricted in disbelief, shaking his head vigorously. In an instant, Qin Li teleported directly in front of him. Miao Yu, my junior brother, are you pleased with this gift? If you are satisfied, I shall send you down to keep him company. If not, you may descend on your own and have a word with this elder Black Cloud. Qin Li spoke to Miao Yu with a smile. Upon hearing Qin Li's words, Miao Yu raised his gaze to meet his brother-'s. The once refreshing smile now appeared to him as a devilish grin, sinister and terrifying. Miao Yu felt a chill of fear as he stumbled back a few steps. In the next moment, he pondered Qin Li's words and exclaimed in shock, "It was you. You killed the Black Cloud elder?" His tone was filled with incredulity. Then, shaking his head, he muttered to himself, "Impossible. You are but a worthless fool. How could you possibly slay an elder of the Yuanshan realm? Absolutely impossible. Do not be so absolute. Qin Li chuckled, extending his finger to gently poke Miao Yu's thigh. A surge of true energy manifesting as a sword that instantly pierced through flesh. Ah! Miao Yu cried out in pain, clutching his leg. The true energy that transformed into a small sword remained within him, unleashing subtle yet fierce sword chi that ravaged his wound. Soon, beads of sweat cascaded down Miao Yu's forehead. With a swift motion, Miao Yu drew a dagger from behind, slicing downwards to sever his own leg. Gasping for breath, he sought to alleviate his suffering. The pain from severing his leg was a mere whisper compared to the excruciating agony of the sword chi tormenting his injury. A sensation of impending death loomed over him. Miao Yu, disregarding everything else, resolutely took out his dagger, determined to cut off his leg. Realizing he would not survive the day, he was astute enough to understand that Qin Li's visit was undoubtedly a prelude to his demise. Miao Yu surmised that Qin Li's reluctance to leave the tomb was likely an attempt to conceal himself. If Qin Li wished to remain hidden, he would certainly aim to silence him. Additionally, Miao Yu had dispatched members of the corpse-controlling sect to assassinate Qin Li, sealing his own fate. With this thought, Miao Yu hastily summoned all his true energy, striving to shatter the barriers surrounding him to project his voice outward. Despite his earlier cries of agony, which should have echoed throughout the entire Qinyan sect, no one had come to his aid. Either Qin Li has annihilated the entire disciples of the Qinyan sect, or the surrounding barriers have muted his voice, preventing it from reaching beyond. The void-breaking finger. Miao Yu, enduring the pain, extended his finger, and a surge of true energy swiftly shot forth. Qin Li did not intervene. He merely observed Miao Yu's actions with a smile. For a mere practitioner of the divine concealment realm, to breach this barrier is akin to a fool's errand. Only someone of the void realm could hope to dismantle such a defense. The true energy from the divine concealment realm would likely not even create a ripple upon impact. Bang! The void-breaking finger struck the barrier. As Qin Li had anticipated, it was utterly incapable of even causing a ripple. The true energy was absorbed by the barrier, vanishing without a trace. How could this be? Miao Yu, witnessing his true energy fail to make the slightest dent in the barrier, was engulfed by despair and terror. Miao Yu, my junior brother, do tell, how do you find this gift I have bestowed upon you? Qin Li inquired cheerfully as he approached Miao Yu from behind and lifted him effortlessly. Qin Li, I am the son of the sect master of the Sanxiong sect. Release me at once, or my sect will not let you go. My soul token is enshrined within the disciples' hall of the Sanxiong sect. Should I perish, they will undoubtedly come here immediately. Furthermore, I possess a soul token within your Qingyun sect as well. If I die, the sect master and others will certainly come to investigate my demise, and you will find it impossible to escape then. In a sudden flash of realization, Miao Yu remembered his soul token, hoping to leverage it to instill fear in Qin Li and secure his release. Once freed, he would find a way to eliminate him. Ah, I had no idea my junior brother was the son of the sect master of the Sanxiong sect. Quite the esteemed background you have. However, as the son of the sect master, you should rightfully inherit the Sanxiong sect instead of competing for the position of deputy master here at Qinyan sect, Qin Li remarked. Perplexed, Qin Li was indeed familiar with the Sanxiong sect, which had been established for over 1,000 years. The current sect master is a formidable practitioner of the void realm, reputed to wield a sacred artifact capable of contending with transcendent realm warriors. With thousands of disciples, it ranks among the most prominent sects within a 1,000-mile radius. Yet, despite the might of the Qingyun sect overshadowing that of the Sanxiong sect, it refrains from annihilating it. Should the Qingyun sect dare to eradicate the Sanxiong sect, the current sect master, wielding a sacred artifact, could inflict significant losses upon Qingyun sect. It would be a case of incurring more harm than good. Suddenly, an idea struck Qin Li, prompting him to inquire. Could it be that you intend to invade the Qingyun sect? A clever scheme to occupy and usurp. If the Sanxiong sect aims to invade Qingyun sect, then it would be reasonable for the sect master to send his son here to undermine from within. However, he quickly reconsidered. But even if you were to become the master of Qingyun sect, merging it with your Sanxiong sect would be utterly impossible. The elders and ancestors within your sect would never consent to such a merger. In that case, you might very well find your position as master stripped away by the elders, who would appoint a new leader. If you were to invade the Qingyun sect, your Sanxiong sect would have but a single warrior capable of contending with those at the tribulation stage, while the Qingyun sect boasts 3 such formidable beings, Qin Li remarked, furrowing his brow. Indeed, relying solely on our Sanxiong sect is out of the question. Let us not forget that you have slain Elder Heiyun, who hails from the controlling core sect, Miao Yu interjected. Hiss, the controlling core sect, a troublesome foe, disturbing my tranquil existence. It is clear that this continent remains perilously dangerous. Qin Li suddenly grasped Miao Yu's thoughts regarding the Sanxiong sect strategy. The Sanxiong sect intended to have Miao Yu infiltrate the Qingyun sect and ascend to the position of vice sect master. When the time was ripe, Miao Yu would become the sect master and subsequently open the grand formation to allow both the Zhangqiong sect and the controlling core sect's experts to enter. At that juncture, the Zhangqiong sect would merely need to offer the remains of the Qin Yun sect's past ancestors and sect masters to the controlling core sect. A small price to pay for monumental returns. In Qin Li's mind, the collaboration between the controlling core sect and the Zhangqiong sect to invade the Qin Yun sect was undoubtedly motivated by the cemetery he guarded. Within that graveyard lay the remains of numerous ancestors and sect masters, some of which possessed the strength of the Hunyuan realm. Should the controlling core sect acquire them, it would spell disaster for the entire continent. Chapter 13. The sect's bell tolling. Qin Li, if you know what is good for you, release me obediently, and I shall grant you a position among the elders of the Qin Yun sect, Miao Yu said with a smile. Do I need such a position? Qin Li squatted down, tilting his head to regard Miao Yu. Junior brother, why are you still so foolish? If I were to kill you, what could the Qin Yun sect or your father do about it? They would never trace it back to me. I am but a lowly gravekeeper, devoid of cultivation. A mere waste. Those within the sect, as long as they are not foolish, would never suspect me. The notion that a waste could slay the vice sect master is truly laughable, Qin Li replied with a smile. Upon hearing Qin Li's words, Miao Yu's smile abruptly froze. Qin Li was indeed correct. Presently, he was perceived by all Qin Yun sect disciples as an inconsequential figure, merely a gravekeeper without any cultivation. Miao Yu had discovered that most disciples held a similar attitude. If Miao Yu were to perish now, the Qin Yun sect would undoubtedly not suspect Qin Li as the culprit. He spoke the truth. If the sect were not foolish, they would never believe that a waste could kill their appointed vice sect master. As for the Zhangqiong sect, even if they were to learn of his demise, they would simply feign ignorance, including his father. The Zhangqiong sect was not so naive. Should the plan be unveiled, the Qin Yun sect would undoubtedly obliterate the entire Zhangqiong sect with ruthless vengeance. As for the remaining controlling core sect, they would surely flee as far as possible. Once it became known that the controlling core sect had a foothold here, the Yaoqi Palace would undoubtedly send enforcers to annihilate them. At that point, the accumulated foundation of the controlling core sect, built over centuries, would likely be obliterated in an instant. No one dared to take such a gamble. Do you understand now? Qin Li asked with a smile, observing Miao Yu's expression. He knew that Miao Yu had come to realize the implications. In Miao Yu's eyes, this was a winning hand that had soured into a losing one, all due to the presence of someone who defied convention. Had it not been for him, in a few decades, their plot might well have succeeded. At first, Qin Li thought killing Miao Yu right then would land him in trouble. But after the matter dragged in the Firmament sect and the corpse-controlling sect, he instantly realized getting rid of Miao Yu would solve all his problems once and for all. It would be perfect. Now that you've made me see reason, it's time for you to die. The moment Qin Li finished speaking, he raised a finger to slay Miao Yu. Miao Yu shut his eyes as he watched Qin Li's outstretched finger. Just as the fatal blow loomed, a thought suddenly struck him. Senior brother, spare my life. Miao Yu blurted out in a panic. I've got something important to tell you. Let me live, and I swear I'll never set foot in the Azure Cloud Sect again. What is it? Qin Li lowered his finger and eyed Miao Yu with idle curiosity, wondering what tricks the young man might try to pull. Not only did I send assassins after you, senior brother, I also dispatched men to murder Su Wanshan and Siyu. Miao Yu stammered in terror. Your words have only hastened your own death, junior brother Miao Yu. With a cold smile, Qin Li flicked his finger, and a wisp of true energy pierced straight through Miao Yu's skull. A small hole opened in Miao Yu's head. His eyes bulged in shock, his jaw hanging open slackly. Drop by drop, blood trickled from the corner of his mouth onto the floor. Qin Li nodded at the sight, walked over to Miao Yu's severed leg, and prepared to use it to carve Miao Yu's identity onto the wall. Then he paused. If he left such a mark now, the Firmament sect and corpse-controlling sect might fly into a reckless rage. He decided against it. Shaking his head, Qin Li dispelled the defensive barrier and departed the premises. Azure Cloud Sect disciples' residential quarter on the rooftop of a small courtyard, two figures lurked. Senior brother, why does the young sect master want these two inner sect disciples dead? One whispered to his companion. Mind your own business and finish the task we were given. But what if the sect finds out? We'll end up dead for sure. Let me ask you, who holds the highest authority in the sect? The sect master. And who will take over as sect master in the future? The young sect master. There you go. Doing errands for the young sect master is the same as serving the sect master. Hurry up and kill them so we can report back. The pair chatted away atop the roof. A soft breeze swept by. A flash of white blade light cut through the air. Qin Li appeared behind them with sword in hand. Two heads tumbled off their bodies and rolled down into the courtyard. The two disciples had just been daydreaming about their promising futures. Yet they died instantly without a chance to react. Thud. The sound of rolling skulls echoed across the yard. Who is there? A middle-aged woman stepped out of the house, sharp eyes scanning every corner. It was none other than Elder Yunha. Time to go. Relieved at Elder Yunha's appearance, Qin Li vanished without a trace and returned to the burial ground. Back at the courtyard, heads? Elder Yunha hurried toward the noise and knelt down, only to find 2 severed heads on the ground. She glanced upward to the rooftop, where blood kept dripping onto the grass. Master, what's wrong? As Elder Yunha withdrew his gaze, the voices of Siyu and Su Wenshan reached him from behind. Upon hearing Elder Yunha's earlier utterance, the two, concerned that something amiss had occurred, hurriedly exited the house and made their way to the courtyard. It's nothing, merely a few cats. Return to your cultivation. Elder Yunha gestured dismissively without turning around. Understood. Siyu and Su Wenshan exchanged glances, finding no cause for alarm. They nodded in acknowledgement and retreated into the house to commence their meditation practice. As the sound of the door closing echoed behind him, Elder Yunha breathed a sigh of relief. He reached out to collect the 2 severed heads and the corpse on the rooftop, ascending towards the main hall of the Qin Li sect. The words "is the sign-in at the tomb of the 3rd-generation sect master of Qin Li sect completed?" appeared before Qin Li in familiar golden script. Sign in, he murmured. Sign in successful. Reward: 1 drop of Dragon Emperor's blood. Qin Li gazed at the drop of Dragon Emperor's blood suspended in his palm and swallowed it whole, beginning the process of refining it. The Dragon Emperor's blood would become available for use after approximately a year of sign-ins, along with the Dragon Emperor's 9 transformations he had previously obtained. The following day, at dawn, the resonant and urgent tolling of bells reverberated throughout the Qin Li sect. Every disciple of the sect lifted their gaze skyward, witnessing numerous elders soaring towards the main peak, their faces etched with confusion, uncertain of what had transpired. However, the tolling of the bell signified that something significant had occurred. Whenever this bell tolled, it either indicated an invasion or a major upheaval within the sect. In the graveyard, upon hearing the bell, Qin Li instinctively understood its meaning, murmuring, "Has Miao Yu been discovered dead?" His conjecture was accurate. The bell had been rung in honor of Miao Yu, the newly appointed young sect master, whose death indeed warranted such solemnity. Chapter 14. The storm approaches in the main hall of the Qin Li sect summit. The decision to assign Qin Li to guard the graveyard for 50 years had been decreed from this very place. The hall was crowded with high-ranking members of the Qin Li sect, elders from both the inner and outer gates. The sect master and several reclusive ancestors stood in a circle, surrounding the lifeless body of a young man placed in their midst. The young corpse lay with 1 leg severed, the dismembered limb set aside, and his head pierced by a forceful surge of true energy. Sect master, it appears that young sect master Miao Yu endured torment prior to his demise. Faint remnants of sword energy still linger within the severed leg, remarked an elderly man with a white beard, casting a glance at the body before the sect master. Qing Feng. This young corpse belonged to none other than Miao Yu. The elderly man, Qing Xian, the head of the Pill Peak and a 6th-tier alchemist, held significant stature within the Qin Li sect. Observing Miao Yu's remains, Qing Xian sighed and muttered, "This poor child." Unbeknownst to him, Miao Yu's true identity remained concealed, and based on his impressions, he was perceived within the Qin Li sect as honest, lively, and energetic. He was friendly to others, never bullying the weak. Overall, he was regarded as an exemplary candidate for the position of sect master among the members of the Qin Li sect. He was unaware of how much more formidable he was compared to Qin Li, that reckless troublemaker. A look of regret appeared on Qing Xian's aged face. Upon his arrival, he encountered the lifeless body of Miao Yu and, noticing the severed leg, reached out to touch it. Suddenly, a powerful surge of sword energy shot forth, nearly injuring him. This formidable sword energy was witnessed by all present, clearly the work of a warrior at the Void Realm. This revelation left Qing Feng and numerous elders of the Qin Li sect astounded. Even the sect's ancestor furrowed his brow in confusion, unsure of how to respond. It was bewildering to witness a Void Realm practitioner slaying a junior of merely the divine concealment realm. Yunhe Lushan. Bring the heads forward for the elders and ancestors to examine, Qing Feng commanded, pointing at Yunhe and a robust middle-aged man. Understood, they replied, retrieving 3 severed heads and placing them beside Miao Yu's corpse. What is this? Qing Xian inquired, his expression one of perplexity as he regarded the 3 heads. 2 of them looked familiar, resembling disciples who had often accompanied Miao Yu, while the 3rd evoked no recollection in his mind. Not just Qing Xian. Many elders in the hall were equally ignorant of the identity of the head with disheveled hair. However, the other 2, with their hair tied back, were easily recognizable as disciples of the Qin Li sect, and their bodies were located in the rear hall, making any error in identification unlikely. As the elders furrowed their brows in silence, an elder of the Qin Li sect, leaning on a cane, approached the gathered crowd. Prompting them to part, and allow him to inspect the head. Hey Yun, elder of the corpse-controlling sect, the elder stated, his expression a mixture of complexity and concern. The corpse-controlling sect? How could it be one of their members, let alone an elder? Wasn't the sect nearly annihilated by the Yaoqi Palace? How can they now appear near our Qin sect? The elders erupted in commotion upon hearing their ancestor declare the individual as a member of the corpse-controlling sect. As for Miao Yu's corpse on the ground, they had already dismissed it. The death of the young sect master was regrettable, but they could seek another. However, the presence of the corpse-controlling sect was entirely different. This was a sect that demanded cautious attention, as any misstep could lead to severe repercussions. When Qin Li engaged in a contest of wits with Miao Yu, he had cautioned him against following his old path. Now, looking at the outcome, it was clear that Miao Yu's fate was even more tragic than Qin Li's. He had perished outright. Stepping forward, Qin Xian addressed the elder. Ancestor, are you certain? If this head indeed belongs to a member of the corpse-controlling sect, our Qin sect must conduct a thorough investigation and root out this infestation. I have seen this person before. He is indeed from the corpse-controlling sect, the ancestor replied after a deep breath. Though he was reluctant to accept the truth, the evidence was irrefutable. Ancestor, does that mean the young sect master was killed by members of the corpse-controlling sect? Qin Xian asked Qin Feng. I do not know, but the incursion of the corpse-controlling sect into our Qin sect is undeniable. Issue a directive. The sect is to be placed on lockdown, and all disciples are forbidden from leaving. Those who defy this order will be imprisoned in the execution peak. Qin Feng declared to the assembly in the hall. Master, since the corpse-controlling sect has infiltrated, their objective is undoubtedly to seize the ancestral burial grounds of our Qin sect. Qin Xian expressed with a grave countenance as he spoke to Qin Feng. Indeed, Qin Feng nodded in response to Qin Xian's words. The art of corpse manipulation practiced by the corpse-controlling sect necessitates the refinement of the cadaver before it can be controlled. However, should this art be employed, it invariably manifests as celestial phenomena, rendering it easily detectable. Given that our sect has not experienced any such anomalies, it is highly probable that the corpse-controlling sect has not refined any corpses within our domain. Since there are no bodies refined here, Qin Feng paused, then addressed the assembly in the grand hall. All elders, heed my command. Proceed to the sect's burial grounds and ascertain whether our ancestors' remains are still intact. Yes, the elders responded, their expressions unusually serious as they nodded in agreement. In the next moment, they dispersed, transforming into streaks of white light as they sped towards the burial site where Qin Li was stationed. The absence of any refined corpses within the sect raises the possibility of them attempting to abscond with a body, subsequently transporting it away from Qin sect for clandestine refinement elsewhere. This is why Qin Feng issued the order for all elders to inspect the burial grounds for the remains of our past ancestors and the sect leader. I believe Qin Li is the one guarding the burial site, correct? One elder inquired, standing still as he addressed Qin Feng. Indeed, it is Qin Li who is on watch, Qin Feng replied. Upon mentioning Qin Li, a flicker of indignation crossed Qin Feng's face. Qin Li was the young master he had personally selected, yet he had recklessly unleashed an ancient ferocious beast, nearly bringing calamity upon Qin sect. Yes, I recall he has been guarding the tomb for 3 years now, hasn't he? The elder continued. Indeed, Qin Feng affirmed. In the next moment, Qin Feng's eyes widened as he explained to the elder. Elder, it is inconceivable that Qin Li could be an accomplice of the corpse-controlling sect. Though he may be mischievous, he is one I have nurtured myself. He would not engage in such treachery. Qin Feng hastily clarified, knowing that the elder's previous inquiry likely stemmed from suspicion towards Qin Li. Haha, I understand. I merely find it somewhat amusing. The elder shook his head, addressing Qin Feng. Amusing? Qin Feng replied, perplexed. Do you not find our Qin sect rather intriguing? 2 successive young masters. One has guarded the tomb for 50 years, while the other lies deceased upon the ground. Is there truly a need for a young master in our sect? Although the elder spoke with a hint of mirth, his gaze was laced with a menacing intensity, seemingly warning Qin Feng that should such a situation arise again, it would not be merely the young master at stake, but the sect leader as well. Elder, I assure you there will not be a next time, Qin Feng vowed with unwavering conviction. That is good to hear. The elder concluded, vanishing from the grand hall. Alas, this predicament has escalated significantly. Qin Feng sighed as he exited the hall, gazing skyward in contemplation. Chapter 15. The Shadow Emperor. Qin Li in the burial grounds of Qin sect. Qin Li had risen early to tend to the tombstones, preparing to receive the visiting elders. This morning, he was acutely aware that the elders would surely come to see him, the forsaken disciple. As he was engaged in his duties, several streaks of white light suddenly appeared in his line of sight. In an instant, a few elders from the Qin sect arrived at the graveyard. Upon seeing their arrival, Qin Li promptly ceased his cleaning and hurriedly approached them, bowing respectfully as he spoke. Disciple Qin Li humbly welcomes the esteemed elders. The elders nodded in acknowledgement. Qin Li, I inquire whether any strangers have recently visited this place, Qin Xian asked, stepping closer to him. Strangers? Qin Li straightened up to meet Qin Xuan's gaze and shook his head. Elder Qin Xian, no strangers have come here. This is a graveyard. And who would wander here for no reason? The atmosphere is heavy with the essence of death, making it perilous. Even birds seldom venture near, he replied with a smile, rubbing his hands together. Qin Xian nodded, then turned away to inspect the tombs. The other elders from the Qin sect followed closely behind, employing their spiritual senses to ascertain whether any bodies lay within the graves. What on earth is happening? Qin Li muttered to himself, looking utterly perplexed. It has nothing to do with you, Qin Xian instinctively responded upon hearing Qin Li's voice. Oh, understood, Qin Li nodded. Closing his mouth, Qin Xian, feeling a sense of urgency, was acutely aware that if he calmed down, he might detect something amiss. He was far enough from Qin Li that he should not have heard him speak. However, Qin Xian, preoccupied with his task, continued to scan the area with his spiritual senses. Whoosh! Several white rays descended from the sky, signifying the arrival of more elders, who came to investigate the graveyard as condition. Observing Qin Li standing obediently aside, they glanced at Qin Xian and his group, concluding that Qin Li posed no issue. They seamlessly integrated into Qin Xuan's team and began their examination of the graves. Each elder scrutinized the tombstones for a full minute before they departed to inspect the next. Leaning against the door, Qin Li watched with great interest as the elders moved in and out, checking for any anomalies in the graveyard. He appeared utterly unperturbed, for he had already conducted his own inspection the previous night. Not a single corpse had been overlooked. Qin Li remained in his position for an entire hour. During this time, approximately 10 more elders arrived, joining Qin Xian in their thorough examination of the site. After an hour had passed, Qin Xian and the others completed their inspection and emerged, satisfied with their findings. From this day forth, Qin Li, you must diligently guard this place. Be sure to prevent any strangers from entering. Additionally, I bestow upon you a talisman, infused with my utmost power. Should you encounter unforeseen circumstances, simply channel your energy to activate it, Qin Xian said, stepping forward and presenting a talisman to Qin Li. With a smile, Qin Li accepted the talisman and remarked, Elder Qin Xian, you mentioned channeling energy, but I am currently rendered powerless. How can I activate this? Qin Xian paused, taken aback by Qin Li's words, then nodded in understanding. Indeed, I shall provide you with a vitality pill that will grant you temporary energy. Though its potency is limited, it will suffice to activate the talisman. Saying this, Qin Xian reached into his robe once more and produced a pill, handing it to Qin Li. Gratitude was expressed by Elder Qin Xian, Qin Li, as he carefully tucked the talisman into his embrace and subsequently placed the elixir into his pocket. Remember, guard it well, Elder Qin Xian admonished. Understood, Elder Qin Xian. Qin Li replied with a nod. Elder Qin Xian then turned to the other elders behind him, stating, Everyone, let us depart. The sect's cemetery is secure. No sooner had he spoken than all the elders of Qin sect transformed into white rainbows, vanishing from sight. Qin Li stood at the doorway, watching the myriad of elders depart, a complex mixture of emotions swirling within him. The higher-ups of Qin sect were fully aware of the matters concerning the corpse-controlling sect. Knowing this, leaving a mere disciple, devoid of any cultivation, to guard this place was tantamount to completely abandoning him. Although Qin Li recognized his abandonment, a sense of acceptance still eluded him. Well, at least without anyone stationed here, there is no sense of confinement, he thought wryly, shaking his head before retreating to his quarters to cultivate. Time trickled by, and 3 days elapsed. Today marked a significant occasion for Qin sect, as a new corpse was set to arrive at Qin Li's burial site. This body belonged neither to the current sect leader nor to an elder, but to Miao Yu, the former vice sect leader. Qin Li stood before the cemetery, awaiting the arrival of Miao Yu's coffin. The atmosphere around Qin sect's cemetery was bustling. The ominous energies and cadaverous aura were dissipated by the vital qi emanating from the elders and disciples present. Elders Qin Feng and Qin Xian gently bore the coffin to a newly excavated grave, followed closely by several elders and disciples. Their expressions a tapestry of emotions ranging from sorrow to indifference, some even displaying flickers of joy or fainting in tears. Each one of them was a master in the art of performance. It is time for me to speak, Qin Li mused inwardly. In the next moment, his voice resonated clearly in the ears of all present. Miao Yu, my junior brother, how could you depart so swiftly? Just a few days ago, we were engaged in delightful discourse, and now, the white-haired sends off the black-haired. Qin Li's voice trembled with emotion as he stood in the corner, feigning a choked sob. hands clasped over his mouth to stifle his cries. All eyes turned towards Qin Li, hundreds of gazes converging upon him in an instant. Senior brother Qin Li certainly excels at dramatics, thought Siyu, who had accompanied Elder Yunhe to the farewell ceremony and had intended to visit Qin Li. However, upon arrival, she found him engaged in his theatrical display. Siyu was acutely aware that Miao Yu's demise was undoubtedly linked to Qin Li. Otherwise, there would not have been an assassination attempt on her and Su Wenshan that very afternoon. The news of the two Qin Yun sect disciples' deaths had already spread. While the sect attributed the incident to the corpse-controlling sect, Siyu and Su Wenshan knew the truth. Miao Yu had sent assassins after them. In their hearts, they were convinced that Qin Li was responsible for the deaths of the two disciples, likely having just slain Miao Yu before coming to eliminate those two as well. Afterward, the two engaged in a discussion, arriving at a singular conclusion. However, the matter concerning the corpse-controlling sect indeed astonished Siyu and Su Wenshan. They had not anticipated the involvement of an ancient sect. Chapter 16. Infuriating. I refuse to be belittled by my senior brother. Several hours later, Miao Yu successfully descended into the tomb. Qin Li, still leaning against the wall, wept profusely, pounding the wall with his hands as he lamented, "Junior brother, oh junior brother. For all these years, you have been the only one to visit your senior brother. How could you leave so young? My heart aches. The sun and moon bear witness. And heaven and earth can attest to my sorrow." Qin Li wept uncontrollably, tears flowing freely. Those who heard his cries were moved to tears themselves. Qing Feng, observing Qin Li's state, found his suspicions dissipating. He learned that Miao Yu had visited Qin Li on the afternoon of his death. Upon discovering this, a flicker of doubt arose within him regarding Qin Li, prompting him to consider a future opportunity to test him. However, upon witnessing Qin Li's condition, Qing Feng felt little need for further probing. It seemed increasingly unlikely. When he first arrived, he clasped Qin Li's hands, intending to discern whether any vital energy flowed within him. Had even the faintest trace of energy been present, he would have directly intervened to restrain Qin Li. Alas! To his dismay, Qin Li exhibited not a shred of cultivation, but rather an abundance of corpse energy and deathly aura, likely a consequence of years spent guarding the tomb. Vulnerable to the chill of the grave, Qing Feng shook his head and sighed, uttering, "Regret fills my heart." This statement resonated clearly in Qin Li's ears, causing him to pause instinctively before bursting into tears again, feigning ignorance. Moments later, all the elders and disciples departed from the tomb, leaving only Siyu behind. She stood beside Qin Li, attempting to console him with genuine empathy. "Senior brother, please do not cry. I understand your pain. Miao Yu's death grieves me as well. Yet, we must look forward." Her tone was gentle as she addressed Qin Li. "Senior brother, you are quite the actor. Tell me honestly, did you have a hand in Miao Yu's demise?" she inquired. "What are you saying?" Qin Li responded, surveying his surroundings and speaking softly. "Forget it, it's pointless. If you want to speak, I shan't pry further," Siyu replied quietly. Qin Li smiled at Siyu, wiping away his tears before sitting cross-legged at the doorway. He posed the question, why hasn't Su Wenshan shown up? During Miao Yu's burial, all the elders and disciples were present, except for those in seclusion or away, to pay their respects to Miao Yu, yet Su Wenshan was notably absent. Siyu, being a disciple of Elder Yunhe, had attended, and Su Wenshan, also a disciple of Elder Yunhe, ought to have been there to bid farewell to Miao Yu. Junior brother Su is currently in seclusion, striving to break through to the foundation establishment stage, so master did not permit him to attend, Siyu explained. "So soon?" Qin Li expressed his astonishment. "Your junior brother is quite formidable. As his senior sister, you must surely surpass him, yet it seems your own cultivation has not progressed much lately. Have you been slacking?" Qin Li remarked with a smile. Although he spoke to himself, his voice reached Siyu's ears distinctly, causing her cheeks to flush crimson. "How infuriating! To be underestimated by my senior brother. I refuse to allow anyone to take my place in his heart." In the next moment, Siyu spoke, "Senior brother, I shall take my leave now. Please continue with your tasks." "Very well," Qin Li replied with a smile. In a swift motion, Siyu turned and hurried down the mountain, not daring to linger even for a moment, eager to return and devote herself to her cultivation. As the senior sister, how could she allow her junior brother to surpass her? She resolutely reminded herself of her determination. Meanwhile, in the room where Su Wenshan resided, he sat cross-legged on the bed, eyes closed, his aura reaching its zenith. After a few breaths, Su Wenshan opened his eyes, his presence returning to a state of calm, a soft white radiance emanating from him. This was a sign of breakthrough, foundation establishment. Su Wenshan extended his hands, observing the power resonating from his palms, aware that he had successfully transcended to the foundation establishment realm. With a deep breath, he steadied his excited heart. Rising from the bed, he stood on the ground and respectfully addressed the ring on his finger, master." In an instant, the ring glowed brilliantly, and a phantom materialized before him. The figure transformed into a young man, with a fair complexion and hands resembling jade. His long silver hair cascaded down his back, and his gaze was profound. A visage of striking handsomeness. "Master," Su Wenshan knelt on one knee, expressing his reverence. The silver-haired youth smiled at Su Wenshan, gently helping him to his feet. "Wenshan, congratulations on your breakthrough." His voice was soothing, reminiscent of a gentle spring breeze, warming the heart. "It is all due to your excellent teachings, Master," Su Wenshan responded earnestly. He spoke the truth. His current achievements were entirely attributed to his mentor. Without his guidance, he would likely still be in the desolate city of Suzhou, labeled a waste by others. The scene before him mirrored Qin Li's predictions precisely. Su Wenshan indeed had a mentor, and he was indeed present within the ring. "Wenshan, you have now reached the foundation establishment stage and have joined the Qin Li sect. Your future is limitless. Today, I wish to impart a lesson. There are always greater talents beyond oneself, and greater heavens beyond this one. Do not be hasty, and avoid unnecessary conflicts. When faced with challenges, retreat if possible. Do not provoke powerful adversaries without absolute strength. Do you understand?" "Understood, Master," Su Wenshan nodded, though his gaze dimmed momentarily as he suddenly thought of Qin Li. He was uncertain how many monsters like Qin Li existed on this continent. The mere thought of Qin Li, who could slay a cave void realm beast with a single sword strike, sent tremors through him, a fear that resonated deep within his soul. Observing Su Wenshan's reaction, the silver-haired youth sensed his thoughts drifting to the spirited youth, akin to a battle god, and could not help but sigh. "Wenshan, do not dwell on Qin Li. He is not a target you can aspire to reach." Su Wenshan nodded at his master's words, his tone imbued with anticipation as he asked, "Master, do you see through Qin Li?" The cultivation level of Qin Li has always remained an enigma to Su Wenshan and Siyu. Su Wenshan never inquired about the white-haired youth's cultivation, fearing it might tarnish his own Dao heart. However, today, having just achieved a breakthrough into the foundation establishment stage, he felt elated and decided to inquire with his teacher, hoping to discern Qin Li's true realm. The white-haired youth shook his head at Su Wenshan. "Your senior brother, Qin Li, remains inscrutable to me. When he refrains from action, he appears no different from an ordinary mortal incapable of cultivation. Yet, once he engages, the overwhelming force he wields and the majestic aura he exudes are truly unmatched. Whenever I gaze into his eyes, I perceive a depth akin to the vast ocean, terrifyingly profound. It seems he is aware of my existence, though he chooses not to reveal it, merely testing me both intentionally and inadvertently. Fortunately, he harbors no malice towards us. Otherwise, we likely wouldn't even qualify for death." The white-haired youth, hands clasped behind his back, approached the door and turned to Su Wenshan with a look of melancholy. "I genuinely find this Qin Li to be quite formidable. Does senior brother Qin Li know of the teacher's existence?" Su Wenshan was momentarily taken aback, his tone tinged with astonishment. The white-haired youth nodded at his incredulous expression. "Indeed, he should be aware, yet he has chosen not to confront it outright. Moreover, he has accurately surmised much about your life. Qin Li is unfathomable, a testament to the legacy of the Ancient sect, which, despite its decline, still conceals secrets beyond the grasp of ordinary individuals." Su Wenshan exhaled deeply, tilting his head in contemplation, realizing that Qin Li occasionally spoke to him in cryptic terms. He had always thought that Qin Li possessed some peculiar habits, unaware that he had been observing the ring upon Su Wenshan's finger. "So what should I do now? Should I inform senior brother Qin Li of your existence?" Su Wenshan cautiously inquired. "There's no need. Since it remains unspoken, we shall continue as is." Taking one step at a time, the white-haired youth replied. "Understood," Su Wenshan nodded. "Wenshan, you have just achieved a breakthrough. It would be wise to solidify your cultivation first. Someone is approaching. I must take my leave," the white-haired youth suddenly remarked upon hearing a noise outside. "Very well, teacher," Su Wenshan responded, having also heard the sounds outside, which likely indicated the return of Siyu and Elder Yunhe from the funeral. No sooner had the words left his lips than the white-haired youth transformed into a wisp of white smoke, returning to the ring on Su Wenshan's finger. "I must not disappoint my teacher's expectations," Su Wenshan murmured, casting a glance at the ring adorning his finger. He then settled into a meditative posture, diligently focusing on solidifying his cultivation. Meanwhile, Siyu hurried back from the graveyard, discovering her master was absent. She contemplated seeking out Su Wenshan to see if he had successfully broken through, but then reconsidered. It would be better to refrain from doing so, lest her voice disrupt his concentration, leading to his failure and making her culpable. Not only would she face her master's ire, but she would also bear a heavy sense of guilt. It was a risk not worth taking. Upon reflecting on these matters, Siyu returned to her chamber to meditate in a cross-legged position, striving to attain the realm of divine concealment at the earliest opportunity, with aspirations to contend for the esteemed position of the young sect master. As the adage goes, a soldier who does not aspire to be a general is not a good soldier. Naturally, Siyu harbored ambitions to stand above all others as the young sect master. Following the demise of Miao Yu, an unsettling atmosphere enveloped the entire Qingyun sect, with rumors circulating of a curse afflicting the position of young sect master, claims of misfortune and bloodshed for any who dared to assume the role. Consequently, no one within the sect wished to vie for the position, fearing that such ambitions would bring about their own demise. This pervasive anxiety led Elder Yunhe and the other elders to refrain from returning to their quarters, instead gathering in the grand hall of the sect master's peak to deliberate on the fate of the next young sect master. Within the grand hall, Elder Qingxian stood before the sect master and bowed respectfully, saying, "Sect master, at present, all disciples within the sect harbor aversion towards the position of young sect master. It would be prudent to postpone the selection of a new master. Let us wait 5 or 6 years until the prevailing sentiments have subsided, and then we may hold the election." No sooner had Qingxian finished speaking than several elders within the grand hall nodded in agreement. It was indeed not the most opportune moment to hold the election, as it could easily lead to undesirable consequences. The matter of the young sect master could be discussed further in the future. For now, let us address the issue concerning the corpse-controlling sect. Qing Feng addressed the assembly, stating, "Regarding the election of the young sect master, I am acutely aware that this is not the right time. However, we may consider it later. The pressing concern at present is the corpse-controlling sect." He continued, "From this day forth, all disciples are prohibited from leaving the sect. The disciple recruitment ceremony, originally scheduled for 6 months hence, will be postponed until the year after next. Effective immediately, all elders shall conduct thorough inspections of their disciples. I do not wish to see any disciples of the corpse-controlling sect creating chaos within our Qingyun sect." Qing Feng spoke with a grave tone and an authoritative demeanor, and the elders nodded in agreement, pledging to defend the Qingyun sect to the utmost and to prevent the disruptive presence of the corpse-controlling sect. Qing Feng, observing the commitment of the elders, felt a sense of reassurance. The cohesion within the Qingyun sect was truly commendable. Internal issues were resolved internally, while external matters were addressed collectively. Subsequently, Qing Feng issued a series of directives aimed at countering the corpse-controlling sect, one of which involved sending word to the Yaotai Palace, alerting them to the presence of corpse-controlling sect disciples near the sect. Another directive required sending a messenger to the imperial court to caution the emperor to be vigilant. Throughout the entire dynasty, the two places with the highest concentration of skilled corpses were the Qingyun sect's graveyard and the imperial graveyard. These two sites were the most significant repositories for the remains of formidable individuals. In this realm, the principle of resting in peace was paramount. Otherwise, Qin Li would have long since incinerated the corpses to deter the corpse-controlling sect's interest. In the Qingyun sect graveyard, Qin Li sat in meditation. Thus, 3 years passed. Would you like to check in at the gravestone? Check-in successful. Reward, purple sand gourd. Would you like to check in at the gravestone? Check-in successful. Reward, unyielding mountain. Would you like to check in at the gravestone? Check-in successful. Reward, rejuvenation technique. Before the tombstone of the founding ancestor, one must check in. Upon successful check-in, a reward of the Azure Cloud battle body is granted. For the past 3 years, Qin Li has remained secluded, never stepping beyond the confines of the cemetery, diligently checking in at the burial site. At long last, he has completed all check-ins except for those locations that allow repeated attendance. As it stands, there are only 3 places within the entire Azure Cloud Sect cemetery where check-ins are permitted, and these are the repeatable sites. Beyond these, Qin Li has meticulously registered at every available location. His rewards have been plentiful. Qin Li now finds himself akin to a diamond bachelor, possessing an unparalleled battle body, with numerous legendary swords and blades, the count of which exceeds 100 in his pockets. His mastery of swordsmanship, leg techniques, and body movements is so extensive that it defies enumeration. As for elixirs, Qin Li estimates that his collection rivals that of Elder Qingxian at the alchemy peak. After half a year of diligent check-ins, it seems that he will soon reach complete fulfillment, at which point he plans to venture into the sect's inner sanctum at midnight to mark the 3 tombstones he has noted for himself. These 3 tombstones are indeed repeatable check-in locations. Qin Li anticipates that after 6 months, the benefits of checking in here may diminish, prompting him to act during the quiet of night. The Azure Cloud Sect offers numerous locations for Qin Li to check in, including the Grand Hall of the sect leader, the loft of the young sect leader, the alchemy room at the alchemy peak, the stone tablet at the entrance, and various secret realms. He has meticulously memorized all the places where he can register. Once he concludes his check-ins here, he intends to commence a thorough sweep. Years have passed, and the rewards obtained from his check-ins have become insufficient to significantly enhance Qin Li's strength. He can only advance step by step. Presently, his check-ins serve primarily to bolster his foundational prowess. Today, the sect seems unusually lively. Qin Li suddenly perked up his ears upon hearing a commotion at the entrance of the Azure Cloud Sect. There, two teams of individuals stood before an elderly man. The elder's countenance was aged, yet his aura remained formidable, suggesting his cultivation was at least at the nascent soul stage. In the next moment, the elder, with a voice tinged by age, addressed the two teams. A presence of the nine-tailed fox has been detected in Yunqi town. You are to proceed there today and exercise utmost caution. Simply ascertain the veracity of this matter and return to the sect immediately. Do not delay. Understood. The two teams of disciples from the Azure Cloud Sect responded in unison. Upon closer inspection, both teams were clad in the garb of inner disciples, with the weakest among them at the Purple Mansion stage. Qin Li suddenly found himself hovering above them, employing a concealment technique to mask his presence. Upon hearing the elder's words, Qin Li murmured to himself, "That creature has emerged." Chapter 18. Finding the target at the gates of the Azure Cloud Sect. Qin Li furrowed his brow as he floated in midair. The term nine-tailed fox was not unfamiliar to him. It was the very beast responsible for his cultivation being rendered null, casting him into a 50-year exile as a gravekeeper. The nine-tailed fox was indeed the ancient ferocious beast he had unleashed. At that time, Qin Li, serving as the young clan master, happened upon the demon suppression tower of the Qingyun sect and ventured inside. Upon entering, he was greeted by the sight of an enchanting beauty standing before him, completely unclothed. The woman possessed a graceful figure, with long black hair cascading down her back, a pure and lovely countenance, and delicate hands. Her legs were as white as jade, captivating and alluring. However, there was a slight imperfection. A talisman was affixed to her chest. Qin Li, driven by desire, removed the talisman, inadvertently unbinding the seal and releasing an ancient ferocious beast, the nine-tailed fox, of which the woman was a manifestation. Thus, in a moment of folly, Qin Li was struck by the fox's tail, leaving him incapacitated. Subsequently, he was assigned by the Qingyun sect to guard a graveyard for 50 years. Was it Yunkai town? Hovering in the air, Qin Li's eyes brimmed with murderous intent as he plotted his revenge. Soon, two groups of Qingyun sect disciples took their leave from the elder and headed toward Yunkai town. Qin Li trailed closely behind them, determined to slay that cunning fox and avenge himself. Time passed swiftly. 3 days later, Qin Li accompanied the two groups of Qingyun sect disciples to a small town. The town's monument bore the inscription Yunkai Town. Once the disciples entered the town, Qin Li descended from the sky, transforming into the guise of an old man as he walked into Yunkai Town. The nine-tailed fox, an ancient beast, could hardly be found in such a humble place. Qin Li frowned, surveying his surroundings. The small town was not large. One could traverse its length in about half an hour. As he approached a tea house, he overheard a conversation that piqued his interest. "Hey, Erguzi, have you heard? Another person has died at Zhang Yuanwai's house, and their heart was removed. It's a gruesome sight." Intrigued, Qin Li entered the tea house and found a seat. Following the sound, he saw a robust middle-aged man with his upper body exposed, vigorously consuming meat while conversing with a slender young man beside him. "Erguzi, do you think Zhang Yuanwai's family has attracted something unclean?" the middle-aged man, Li Gu, asked. "Brotherly, don't scare me. I heard that the immortals from the Qingyun sect came here to investigate." "We should trust the esteemed Qingyun sect," replied the thin young man. Li Gu, chewing on his meat, nodded at the young man's words. "I wonder if the Qingyun sect can be relied upon. Let's hope they're not like a certain shoddy sect that looks impressive but is utterly useless." "Hey, Li Gu, don't say that." The thin young man quickly covered Li Ji's mouth. He understood quite well the status of the Qingyun sect. If they were truly a lowly sect, there would be no good sects left. "What are you afraid of?" "I'm not scared of these martial artists," Li Gu retorted, brushing off the young man's hand, his demeanor brimming with arrogance. Qin Li observed Li Ji's brazen attitude and decided to teach him a small lesson. "Dare to insult the Qingyun sect? Allow me to give you a minor reprimand." With a smile, Qin Li bent down and picked up a small stone. Whoosh! The stone was launched from his fingertip. In the next moment, a cry of anguish echoed through the air. Before me stood Brotherly, clutching his ankle, blood cascading down. "Brotherly, what happened?" inquired a slender youth, leaving his seat to kneel beside him and inspect the injury. "I don't know. It felt as if something struck me," Li gasped, applying pressure to the wound. "Ergu, please help me to the pharmacy in town." He watched as blood flowed incessantly from his fingertips, urgently requesting the youth's assistance. Such a sight. "Brotherly, you dared to speak ill of the esteemed Qingyun sect, and now you've likely earned their admonishment," remarked the onlookers in the tea house, chuckling at the incident. "Be cautious with your words in the future, remember." Silence. I merely twisted my ankle, retortedly, unable to resist responding to the laughter behind him. The crowd erupted into laughter, and Qin Li, seated in a corner, remained silent yet amused. A mere mortal daring to provoke the Qin sect deserved a minor reprimand. Had he encountered the two groups of disciples, the consequences would have been far graver. The authority of a grand sect must not be undermined. Just as Qin Li contemplated inquiring about the circumstances surrounding Zhang Yuanwei's family, a voice resonated within the tea house. "Waiter, what is this about a death in Zhang Yuanwei's family?" He turned to see who had spoken, curious about the unexpected concern for him. Before he could pose his own question, a young maiden interjected. The young woman, seated not far from him, possessed an appealing visage that might earn a score of 7 or 8 out of 10, with a slender figure. Regrettably, her bosom was rather modest, appearing somewhat flat. With ruby lips and pearly teeth, her delicate hands resembled the pure moonlight as she raised her teacup and took a sip. "Waiter, do tell," she urged. "Oh dear, esteemed guest, we dare not discuss the affairs of the Zhang family," replied a youth clad in light blue, revealing himself to be the tea house's waiter. "Here's some coin, now speak," the maiden insisted, producing several gold coins from her waist and tossing them to the waiter, who was busy serving tea. "Ah, esteemed guest, it's not that I refuse to inform you, but our little town is small. If Zhang Yuanwei were to hear of it, my life would be in peril," the waiter chuckled, returning the coins to her. Something felt amiss to Qin Li. He observed the waiter closely, recalling the distinct scent of a woman's fragrance that lingered as the youth passed by him. Completely devoid of the sweat and toil that should accompany a summer's day in this sun-baked town. It was midday, and most patrons in the tea house bore a sheen of perspiration from the heat. Yet, aside from the young woman who had spoken, this waiter remained entirely dry. The girl does not sweat, for she is a martial artist, imbued with the essence of her craft, rendering such temperatures insufficient to provoke perspiration. However, the innkeeper is quite different. Qin Li noted the absence of any fluctuation of true energy within him. He is an entirely ordinary individual. Mirror of revelation. Qin Li murmured suddenly. In the next moment, a small mirror materialized in his hand. This mirror of revelation, one of the many inconsequential items he acquired upon signing in at the Qin sect's graveyard, had been deemed too trivial to discard, yet too bland to utilize. Unexpectedly, today it proved its worth. Qin Li bent down and directed the mirror towards the innkeeper's face. "Ah, quite the master of concealment," he remarked. Within the mirror, a fox's head emerged, vivid and lifelike. Who else could it be but the famed nine-tailed fox? Even in ashes, Qin Li would not dare to forget this creature. A majestic nine-tailed fox serving tea in this establishment seemed somewhat of a waste of its talents, Qin Li mused to himself. Having identified his target, Qin Li felt no urgency. He merely needed to keep watch. He lifted the teacup from the table and sipped leisurely, intrigued by the spectacle. The nine-tailed fox, known for its practices of drawing upon the essence of males, found itself in a town of mere mortals, devoid of worthy companions. Contemplating this, Qin Li was eager to discern the fox's intentions. Chapter 19. The willful young lady in the tea house of Yunxi town. The nine-tailed fox seemed to sense the scrutiny upon it. While serving gold coins, it glanced around, fortuitously locking eyes with Qin Li. He had transformed into an elderly man, his gaze warm and benevolent towards the fox. The fox, in its guise as the innkeeper, reciprocated with a smile, though its attention soon shifted elsewhere, wary of potential observers. Who could it be? The nine-tailed fox pondered anxiously. It could distinctly feel the gaze of someone in the tea house, likely having uncovered its true identity. This realization filled it with trepidation. Since fleeing the Qin sect, it had secluded itself for cultivation and recuperation, only emerging a few days prior. The disciples of Qin sect had arrived far too swiftly. They possessed a remarkable sense of smell. The nine-tailed fox thought to itself, while pouring tea for the middle-aged man seated before it. It had deliberately chosen a location distant from the Qin sect to act, and while the strength offered by mortals was feeble, it was sufficient for a measure of recovery. Yet, to its surprise, the disciples had detected the scent in mere days. Indeed, they possessed dog-like noses. Fortunately, its cultivation had nearly been restored. The Qin sect's disciples were growing weaker with each generation, now comprising only the apprentices of the Purple Mansion realm. However, this was advantageous, as these cultivators would eventually be captured to aid in its own ascension. Far more valuable than the mere ants it had previously encountered. This tea house serves as a crucial point of entry into Yunxi town, and the nine-tailed fox had noticed the two squads of Qin sect disciples. Thankfully, their cultivation levels were not formidable. These disciples had already become prey for the fox. Disciples of the Qin sect, cultivators of the Purple Mansion realm, presented a significant boon. Females to be consumed for blood, males to serve as furnaces. Perfect. A smirk crept upon its lips as it licked its mouth, pondering the lewd thoughts swirling within. Qin Li observed the earlier moment when the nine-tailed fox licked its lips. Young innkeeper, please enlighten me about the recent incident at Zhang Yuanwai's residence. Rest assured, if any members of the Zhang family inquire, you may invoke the name of my Qiong sect. Just as Qin Li pondered this, the voice of the earlier maiden echoed once more, revealing her identity as a disciple of the Qiong sect. A disciple of the Qiong sect, indeed a prestigious lineage. Oh, I recall that our Yunxi town has seen disciples of the Qiong sect before. I believe there was a young daughter from the Zhang family who was a disciple of the Qiong sect, wasn't there? A daughter? Could she be the young lady from the Zhang family? Surely not. No, I recognize her. She is indeed Zhang Yuanwai's daughter, Zhang Yuling. The patrons of the tea house erupted into a flurry of chatter upon hearing the maiden's words, ultimately realizing that she was the very Zhang Yuling, the daughter of Zhang Yuanwai who had joined the Qiong sect. Esteemed uncles, I am indeed Zhang Yuling, the maiden declared with a proud expression as she acknowledged the discussions surrounding her. Oh my, it truly is her. How has she returned? I recall she hasn't been back since she was chosen by the Qiong sect, perhaps 5 or 6 years ago. Indeed, why has she returned so suddenly? Was she expelled from the Qiong sect? The tea house buzzed with speculation. Zhang Yuling's mouth twitched slightly upon hearing the murmurs of the patrons. To prevent any unfounded rumors from spreading, she clarified, esteemed uncles, I was not expelled from the Qiong sect. I have become an inner disciple and am permitted to return home for a visit. The patrons of the tea house, enlightened by her words, responded in unison. Ah, now we understand. A disciple of the Qiong sect? Qin Li mused quietly as he regarded Zhang Yuling, the nine-tailed fox. Aware of the Qiong sect disciples, and even familiar with them, was surprised to encounter one in this locale. Well, this is of no concern to me. If she discovers my presence, I shall simply allow the Qiong sect to cast her into the sacrificial pool, the nine-tailed fox contemplated as it regarded Zhang Yuling. In the tea house, the nine-tailed fox smiled at Zhang Yuling and said, So, you are the young daughter of Zhang Yuanwai, my apologies. Zhang Yuling nodded in acknowledgement. Since you recognize my lineage, speak freely. I shall ensure your safety. Having just returned, Zhang Yuling intended to rest here when she overheard discussions about troubles at her family home. Very well, the nine-tailed fox replied, appearing somewhat reluctant, and then took a seat before Zhang Yuling to recount the events that transpired at the Zhang residence. All present listened intently, including Qin Li. After half an hour, the nine-tailed fox concluded its narrative, lifted the empty teacup from the table, poured itself a cup of tea, and drank heartily. And that is the situation, Miss Zhang, it said after finishing the tea. Understood, Zhang Yuling replied with a furrowed brow as she rose and departed the tea house. Zhang Yuling hurriedly made her way towards her home, intent on checking on her father and kin to ensure their safety. An hour later, the sky had completely darkened. Qin Li handed a few copper coins to the nine-tailed fox, who then vanished into the night. The fox, watching Qin Li's disappearing figure, pondered with suspicion. This old man feels oddly familiar. I believe I've encountered him before. In the next moment, the nine-tailed fox closed the tea house door and proceeded towards the Zhang residence, planning to deal with the 2 squads of Qin Yun's sect disciples. After feasting on the life essence of these disciples, I would likely restore a significant portion of my own vitality, the fox thought with a grin as it reached a mound less than a kilometer from the Zhang residence. Concealed behind the mound, the nine-tailed fox gazed at the brightly lit Zhang residence, instinctively licking its lips. Tonight will surely be a feast. High above the nine-tailed fox, Qin Li soared on his sword, his gaze indifferent as he observed its movements. Is this cunning fox about to strike? He mused, watching as the nine-tailed fox transformed into a wisp of blue smoke, heading towards the Zhang residence. Meanwhile, the Zhang household buzzed with activity, illuminated as brightly as day. The disciples of Qin Yun's sect stood resolutely in the courtyard, where several of them confronted a young girl. Qin Li ascended higher and was taken aback to recognize the girl confronting the Qin Yun disciples as Zhang Yuling, the daughter of the Zhang family whom he had seen at the tea house earlier that afternoon. I've stated clearly that my family does not require your protection, as I am sufficient, Zhang Yuling declared to the Qin Yun disciples. Miss Zhang, with your current cultivation, this matter is beyond your capability to resolve, one disciple retorted. If it cannot be resolved, we certainly do not need your assistance. I will seek aid from my sect when the time comes, she responded defiantly. Just a trifling disciple of the Sky Horizon sect? The Qin Yun disciple appeared irritated by Zhang Yuling's demeanor, scoffing in contempt. What do you mean by that? Zhang Yuling inquired, her tone sharp. Nothing much, merely a lowly cultivator dares to act so brazenly before us of the Purple Mansion realm. It is only due to the reputation of your Sky Horizon sect that you are still standing here. Otherwise, you would have long since met your demise, the disciple said, his chin raised arrogantly. It is you who have breached decorum by intruding into my home uninvited, Zhang Yuling retorted firmly. We are here to protect your family. The disciples insisted. Unneeded, Zhang Yuling replied with unwavering conviction. The Qin disciples, witnessing her obstinate attitude, felt their anger swell. They had toiled to arrive at this desolate place only to provide free protection for an inconsequential household, and now they faced dismissal. Resentment brewed within them as they contemplated retreating to the town for lodging. However, they dared not leave outright, as their sect's mission was of great importance, forcing them to swallow their indignation and seek revenge another day. Just as the disciples turned away, a chilling wind swept through, and an enchanting voice wafted down from above. What is the hurry? Why not join me in death? It's always better to have company on the road to the Yellow Springs. What kind of person is that? The Qin disciples exclaimed, looking up towards the source of the voice. Before her stood a woman, gracefully suspended in midair, her 9 tails undulating behind her, shimmering with a radiant glow under the moonlight. It was the legendary 9-tailed fox. The disciples of Qin sect gasped as they beheld the magnificent sight. Cold sweat beaded on their foreheads as they regarded the ethereal creature with trepidation. This was an ancient beast of great ferocity. Even after being suppressed for millennia, its power had not been entirely diminished. It had once escaped the encirclement of numerous experts from Qin sect. Oh, my dear disciples of Qin sect. It has been far too long. I have missed you all so dearly. The 9-tailed fox cooed playfully, gazing at the disciples. The lead disciple frowned and whispered to his younger companions, you all must leave now. I will hold it off and report back to the sect to confirm the 9-tailed fox's presence. Why didn't you inform us sooner that the 9-tailed fox was here? Zhang Yuling exclaimed anxiously beside the lead disciple. Silence, you foolish girl. Your Ancient sect is nothing but a bunch of imbeciles, he retorted harshly. Zhang Yuling opened her mouth to protest, but found herself lacking a response. TSK, one mustn't be so rude to a lady. Consider your young sect master. Had it not been for him, I might not have escaped Qin sect. Tonight, I shall serve you brats well, teaching you the importance of gentleness towards women. The 9-tailed fox chuckled, hovering in the air. You monstrous creature, we of Qin sect can seal you once, and we shall do so again, declared the lead disciple, brandishing a sword, unwavering in the face of danger. You seek your demise, the 9-tailed fox retorted, plunging down from the sky. As the 9-tailed fox descended, the lead disciple smirked, rallying his companions. Come, I shall hold it off. He then shouted, Qin sword technique. A flash of azure light erupted, clashing with the creature. With a swift motion, the 9-tailed fox extended its claw, piercing through the lead disciple's heart, extracting it, and consuming it whole. Oh, the heart of a Qin disciple is exquisite, it remarked, blood trickling from its lips as it laughed towards the heavens. With a chilling smile, the 9-tailed fox exhaled, surveying the panicked disciples of Qin sect. In an instant, it seized them all, their escape futile against its speed, unless the lead disciple could delay it significantly. In the courtyard, Zhang Yuling, the disciple of the Qin sect, watched as the 9-tailed fox reached for his heart, closing his eyes in resignation to the inevitable embrace of death. Dear young one, pray tell, how fares your young sect master? The 9-tailed fox inquired with a grin, tracing a circle upon the disciple's chest. I do not know, he replied, his voice weak and feeble. Then you may perish, the fox declared, and with a swift motion, extracted the heart and consumed it. Delicious, truly invigorating, it remarked, wiping the blood from its mouth and hands with its tail as it approached Zhang Yuling. The heavy sound of footsteps echoed in her heart, and the acrid scent of blood filled her nostrils. Drip drop, tears streamed down Zhang Yuling's face. Fear not, little one. Tell me, was the story I shared with you this afternoon to your liking? The 9-tailed fox stood beside her, gently tapping her back. What? Zhang Yuling opened her tightly shut eyes, only to find the 9-tailed fox had vanished, replaced by the innkeeper who had served her tea earlier that day. Is it you? She gasped, covering her mouth in shock. Indeed, it is I. I spent the afternoon attending to your needs, and now, in return, you shall offer me your heart. Quite delightful, the fox, now in the guise of the innkeeper, smiled at her. Release my daughter. Just then, Zhang Yuanwei, who had been taken away by the Qin sect, rushed back, shouting at the 9-tailed fox. Behind him trailed several household servants. Disciples of the Ancient sect? The 9-tailed fox disregarded the outcry, turning to face the source of the voice, where it beheld 2 middle-aged men, disciples of the Ancient sect, their cultivation at the primordial spirit level. Likely elders of the sect. The reason for Zhang Yuanwei's furious return was a chance encounter with the Ancient sect elders on the road. They had implored the elders for assistance, initially doubting any hope, yet to their astonishment, the elders readily agreed and followed Zhang Yuanwei to this place. At the entrance of the courtyard, Zhang Yuanwei, upon seeing his daughter, sought to comfort her. "Daughter, do not." But before he could finish, a long sword pierced through him. As he fell slowly, he glimpsed behind him, realizing that all those who had accompanied him were slaughtered by the two elders of the Ancient Sect. Blood splattered across his face, staining the entire doorway crimson. After dispatching the individuals at the entrance, the two elders approached. Zhang Yuling's expression was one of torment. As if she yearned to scream, yet her voice had been rendered mute by fear, leaving her to communicate only through her lips. Initially, upon hearing her father's voice, she glimpsed the elder of her sect, the Ancient Sect, leading her to believe that she might survive this day. However, the subsequent scene nearly sent her into unconsciousness. The elder of the Ancient Sect had brutally slain her father and all the household servants. Their conversation with the nine-tailed fox suggested a troubling connection between the fox and her sect. "Do not fear, little girl. Your sister will not consume you so easily," the nine-tailed fox said, wiping its mouth as it addressed Zhang Yuling. Suddenly struck by an idea, the fox turned to the two Ancient Sect elders and inquired, "Is this girl from your sect? May I feast upon her?" Hearing the fox's words ignited a flicker of hope within Zhang Yuling, prompting her to open her eyes wide, casting a pitiful gaze upon the two elders. Had she the ability to speak, she would have proclaimed that she would endure any servitude to secure her life. Yet, the next moment extinguished her heart as flicker entirely. The two elders appraised Zhang Yuling and replied to the fox, "She is merely a foundation establishment disciple. Consume her if you wish, it matters not." Zhang Yuling's heart sank into despair as she fixed her gaze upon the two elders. Had her eyes possessed the power to slay, they would have killed those two elders 1,000 times over. She had previously boasted of her sect's honor, taking pride in being a disciple of the Ancient Sect. And yet, the true culprit behind her family's demise was none other than the Ancient Sect itself. In the courtyard, upon hearing the elder's response, the nine-tailed fox pressed its ear against Zhang Yuling's chest and asked, "Isn't it delightful?" Just as the fox finished speaking, a familiar voice resonated from above. "Indeed, it is quite delightful. Who goes there?" The nine-tailed fox looked up in the direction of the voice and saw a young man soaring through the air on his sword, a smile adorning his face. "A master." The nine-tailed fox scrutinized the youth, realizing it could not discern his level of cultivation. The boy could only be Qin Li. Hovering in the air, Qin Li ignored the nine-tailed fox and fixed his gaze upon the two Ancient Sect elders. "I never imagined that Ancient Sect would ally with the nine-tailed fox. I thought your collaboration with the corpse-controlling sect was already repulsive enough. It seems that you Ancient fellows truly lack discernment. It is quite nauseating." As soon as he finished speaking, one of the Ancient Sect elders unsheathed his sword, pointing it at Qin Li, demanding, "Who are you?" "Who am I? This lewd fox should know." Qin Li replied with a smile as he descended to the ground. Approaching the nine-tailed fox, "Who are you?" The nine-tailed fox transformed into a young girl, frowning in confusion as she regarded Qin Li. Qin Li exuded a sense of familiarity. Yet his aura felt entirely foreign, his gaze profound, instilling in the nine-tailed fox a sense of impending danger. "Didn't you just inquire about me?" Qin Li said with a grin as he stepped closer to the nine-tailed fox, pointing a finger at himself. Upon hearing Qin Li's words, the nine-tailed fox immediately discerned his identity. With a smile gracing its features, it turned to Qin Li and gently inquired, "Are you Qin Li, the young master of the Qin sect?" In response, the elders of the Ancient Sect regarded Qin Li with a sense of impending dread. "Ah, you remember now?" Qin Li, unfazed by their reactions, simply smiled and pressed his finger against the nine-tailed fox's chest. "I never expected that despite my crippling your dantian, you could still cultivate." The nine-tailed fox gazed at Qin Li's finger resting against its chest and chuckled. "Indeed, luck is on my side, thanks to you," Qin Li replied with a grin. "Then you ought to express your gratitude," the nine-tailed fox remarked. "Naturally, I have brought you a gift." Qin Li gestured towards the two elders of the Ancient Sect. "A gift?" The nine-tailed fox furrowed its brow, perplexed by Qin Li's words. In the next instant, a flash of white light erupted, and blood splattered across the nine-tailed fox's face. In its eyes, the two elders of the Ancient Sect, who had previously stood firm, now lay crumpled on the ground, tossed before it by Qin Li. "The hearts of these two elders from the Ancient Sect, what do you think of this gift?" Qin Li smiled at the nine-tailed fox. "You?" The nine-tailed fox's eyes widened in disbelief. It was not that it doubted its own capacity to slay the elders, but rather that Qin Li had executed the act with such swiftness that it had not even perceived how he had struck. "Sly fox, I am addressing you. Are you satisfied with this gift?" Qin Li inquired, observing the fox's stunned expression. "I must flee," the nine-tailed fox thought inwardly, ignoring Qin Li's words. It felt an urgent instinct to escape, as if its very life depended on it. "Qin Li, it has been so long since we last met. Shall we sit and converse?" The nine-tailed fox attempted to stabilize the situation with this remark. Hearing this, Qin Li chuckled, nodding with a mischievous glint in his eye. I rather preferred your appearance when we first met. So alluring, he commented with a grin. I understand, the nine-tailed fox replied with a smile, and in the next moment, transformed back to the form it had taken upon first encountering Qin Li. Sly fox, tell me, are you male or female? Qin Li asked, perplexed. A flicker of anger crossed the nine-tailed fox's face at his question, yet it remained silent, responding only with a smile. Female. Ah, fortunate indeed that you are female. Had you been male, your very words would have sealed your fate, Qin Li jested, glancing down at the nine-tailed fox's lower form. At this moment, he had no intention of slaying the nine-tailed fox outright. Instead, he sought to inquire about certain matters that weighed on his mind, including the nature of the alliance between the nine-tailed fox and the Ancient sect. The nine-tailed fox, offering a sheepish smile, suddenly approached Qin Li and leaned against his embrace. Observing this, Qin Li said nothing further, allowing the nine-tailed fox to rest in his arms. Sly fox, do you have any idea how arduous my search for you has been? Qin Li lowered his gaze upon the nine-tailed fox nestled in his arms and inquired. You seek me? The nine-tailed fox responded. Indeed, my thoughts are perpetually consumed with the desire to find you, with the intention of ending your life. Especially after you had the audacity to swat me with your tail upon your escape. Qin Li spoke with a disarming smile. Yet his tone carried an eerie chill that instilled a profound sense of dread in the nine-tailed fox. As the fox gazed up at Qin Li, she pondered whether she could vanquish him in an instant. However, she soon relinquished that thought, realizing that any attempt to kill Qin Li would likely hasten her own demise. Given Qin Li's swiftness in dispatching two elders of the celestial sect, she concluded that the odds of success were dismally low, prompting her to consider alternative routes. With a feigned smile, the nine-tailed fox queried, Then why do you not simply eliminate me now? You still hold some value, Qin Li replied. I have questions for you. What is the nature of your alliance with the celestial sect, and what are its objectives? How much do you truly know about their plans? My collaboration with the celestial sect primarily aims at countering your Qin sect. The nine-tailed fox paused, her heart racing as she glanced cautiously at Qin Li. Noticing no signs of perturbation from him, she continued, In truth, it was not I who sought out the celestial sect. Rather, they approached me. Approached you? Qin Li regarded her with evident intrigue. Indeed, shortly after I fled the Qin sect, the celestial sect sought me out, proposing a partnership to invade Qin sect. I remain uncertain how they located me, yet I consented to the alliance. Subsequently, I learned that the celestial sect has devised an extensive strategy capable of annihilating the entire Qin sect. At this juncture, the nine-tailed fox hesitated once more, scrutinizing Qin Li's reaction. To her dismay, he remained impassive, his eyes as unyielding as stagnant waters, devoid of any ripples of emotion. Just as she prepared to speak again, Qin Li's voice resonated in her ears. Indeed, the scheme is quite grand, he mused. Should it succeed, it could very well lead to the obliteration of the Qin sect. When the nine-tailed fox remarked on the celestial sect's formidable plans to eradicate Qin sect, Qin Li's thoughts drifted to Miao Yu and the corpse-controlling sect. He envisioned that decades hence, upon Miao Yu's ascension as the leader of Qin sect, the alliance with the corpse-controlling sect would usher in an unprecedented catastrophe for Qin sect. Contemplating this, Qin Li furrowed his brow, suddenly struck by a revelation, and murmured, There must be infiltrators from the celestial sect within the sect. Otherwise, it would be inconceivable for this cunning fox to be pursued for cooperation so swiftly after her escape. Indeed, the sect was riddled with parasites, Qin Li reflected. After a brief moment, he grasped the nine-tailed fox's chin and said, How would you prefer to meet your demise? Tell me, and I shall grant your wish. At this point, the nine-tailed fox realized she had little utility left in Qin Li's eyes. What? She gasped in surprise. In an instant, Qin Li moved with blinding speed to strike at the nine-tailed fox. With a whoosh, she transformed into her true form and ascended into the air, narrowly escaping his grasp. Ah, quite nimble, aren't you? Qin Li remarked. With a smile adorning his face, Qin Li gazed at the nine-tailed fox hovering in midair. The fox, upon meeting his gaze, manifested a look of fury, its 9 white tails rising defiantly as they surged toward Qin Li in a sweeping motion. Standing firm, Qin Li grasped the celestial sword, drawing it forth with a swift motion. In an instant, a brilliant white sword aura shot from the blade. The clash resounded. The sword aura met the nine tails head-on. The next moment, a piercing scream echoed as the fox, in pain, retracted its tails and fled in a frenzy. Utterly lacking in courage, Qin Li, wielding the celestial sword, had intended to unleash another wave of sword energy, but alas, the nine-tailed fox had already bolted. My dear girl, life must be quite torturous for you. Allow me to assist, he murmured, turning his attention to Zhang Yuling instead of pursuing the fox. With a swift thrust, The celestial sword pierced through Zhang Yuling's chest. "Rest in peace," Qin Li said softly as he knelt down, removing the azure robe of the elder from the skybound sect to drape over her lifeless form. It was inconceivable for him to allow Zhang Yuling to survive. In her current state, death was a far more merciful release. Indeed, sometimes, death can offer a form of liberation. With a swift motion, Qin Li completed his task and soared into the air on his sword, resuming his pursuit of the nine-tailed fox, which was making considerable haste. After what felt like an eternity, he finally saw Qin Li had been unable to catch up with the nine-tailed fox, trailing closely behind it. Whenever he neared his quarry, the fox would shed a tail to launch an assault, much to Qin Li's frustration. "Heaven-slaying decision," he bellowed, as the celestial sword exuded a formidable aura, aimed at the elusive fox. In the blink of an eye, just as the sword energy was about to make contact, a resounding clang echoed. The energy was thwarted by a barrier, vanishing into thin air. 10,000 great mountains? Qin Li hovered in midair, gazing at the barrier that had repelled his strike. His brow furrowed in contemplation. Before him rose majestic peaks, stretching for tens of thousands of miles. He recognized this place as the 10,000 Great Mountains, a veritable paradise for demonic beasts. The barrier that had intercepted his sword energy was cast from beyond the mountains, a remnant of a powerful warrior who had once imprisoned the beasts within. All cultivators attempting to enter or exit the 10,000 Great Mountains were compelled to comply with the barrier's authority, regardless of their prowess. It was this very barrier that rendered Qin Li's formidable sword energy utterly ineffective. The 10,000 Great Mountains were divided into inner and outer regions, with the outer realm predominantly inhabited by lesser demonic beasts. This situation drew many human cultivators to hone their skills in the outer regions. As for the inner sanctum, Qin Li knew that venturing there would likely spell doom unless one possessed unparalleled strength. Standing outside the barrier, he watched as the nine-tailed fox vanished from his sight, likely calculating that his sword energy would be absorbed by the barrier, allowing it to descend and enter the mountains unscathed. In the blink of an eye, it was gone. Moments later, Qin Li descended from the air, resolutely stepping onto the ground of the 10,000 Great Mountains. He felt compelled to explore, eager to witness the splendor of this realm and, if fortune favored him, to test his own capabilities. The 10,000 Great Mountains were lush and vibrant, replete with bizarre rock formations, rivers, and an array of celestial treasures. However, this description pertained to the inner region. The outer area had been largely depleted of valuable resources. With a swift motion, Qin Li took to the skies on his sword, surveying the expanse of the 10,000 Great Mountains from above. Within the barrier, flight was permissible, albeit perilous. Should a demonic beast catch sight of him, it might perceive him as a threat and attack. As he gazed down upon the mountains, he extended his consciousness to its fullest, yet found no trace of the nine-tailed fox. That cunning creature was quite astute. The 10,000 Great Mountains offered a natural sanctuary for demonic beasts, making it exceedingly difficult to track them. As long as the nine-tailed fox remained grounded and did not take to the air, locating it would be akin to searching for a needle in a haystack. Time passed slowly, and soon dawn broke upon the horizon. The morning sunlight illuminated the vast expanse of the 10,000 Great Mountains. Qin Li, wielding his sword midair, listened to the deafening roars of myriad beasts beneath him, fully aware that locating the elusive nine-tailed fox had become an increasingly arduous task. He pondered giving up the search and was about to turn away when a voice filled with boundless fury erupted from within the mountains, reverberating throughout the region. "Human, dare you bully Bayo? You seek death." Chapter 23. Sovereign of the 10,000 Great Mountains. The celestial winged bull python. Just as Qin Li was about to pivot, a thunderous roar echoed across the entire expanse of the 10,000 Great Mountains. He turned towards the source of the sound and beheld a colossal phantom soaring forth from within the mountains, its immense wings unfurling to obscure the sky. The celestial winged bull python. Qin Li exclaimed in disbelief as he gazed upon the gigantic entity before him. The celestial winged bull python, the most formidable beast of the 10,000 Great Mountains, was unparalleled in ferocity, possessing a bull's head and the body of a python, adorned with two pairs of wings and a striking azure hue. This creature was a descendant of ancient deities and demons, boasting extraordinary innate abilities and strength, reigning supreme over the 10,000 Great Mountains. Alas, I find myself in grave peril, Qin Li thought, realizing this creature was beyond his current capabilities to contend with. With that in mind, he swiftly altered his course, racing towards the barrier beyond, convinced that once he escaped the 10,000 Great Mountains, he would be safe. For the celestial winged bull python would not dare pursue him outside its territory. "Do not flee." The celestial winged bull python bellowed as it observed Qin Li's retreat towards the mountain's exit. Instantly, the entire menagerie of beasts in the 10,000 great mountains prostrated themselves, paralyzed with fear. This was the sovereign of the mountains, the celestial winged bull python. By heavens! I must hasten to escape the 10,000 great mountains and report back to the sect leader. Everyone, flee quickly! Outside the mountains, countless warriors, upon hearing the beast's roar, looked up only to behold the colossal celestial winged bull python, instantly thrown into a state of panic. Traceless sword. Qin Li swiftly turned, employing his sword technique to counter the beast's roar. The sound had transcended mere noise, coalescing into a tangible force capable of assaulting him. Waves of sonic energy surged toward Qin Li. He drew his sword to meet the oncoming assault. Clang! The sound of impact resonated as Qin Li's immortal-slaying sword erupted with a thunderous din-bam. In the next moment, Qin Li was sent hurtling through the air. As he was flung away, the celestial winged bull python had already reached the spot where he once stood, its gigantic wings flapping, creating a tremendous gust that sent nearby trees rustling. Qin Li found himself crashing into the mountainside, embedded halfway into the rock. Cursed fate, he muttered, shifting his position and straightening his attire, his gaze now filled with murderous intent as he stared at the celestial winged bull python. Qin Li did not choose to flee the 10,000 great mountains entirely. Instead, he soared before the celestial winged bull python, gripping the immortal-slaying sword tightly, his aura soaring skyward in an instant. For uniques, you dare to injure me? You seek death. With the immortal-slaying sword crossed over his chest, he retrieved several elixirs from his pocket, swallowing them swiftly. In an instant, Qin Li's true energy peaked. Supreme immortal-slaying technique. With a resounding shout, Qin Li stood before the celestial winged bull python. In the blink of an eye, a blinding white light flashed, and a formidable sword energy surged forth, ruthlessly targeting the beast. Human, you seek death. The celestial winged bull python roared in fury, its tail sweeping towards Qin Li. The clash of their immense powers resonated through the air. Seizing the moment, Qin Li charged at the celestial winged bull python, his sword drawn, seemingly expending all his true energy in a frenzied assault. The creature's defenses were unparalleled, with a physical strength that rivaled the finest martial artists. Amidst Qin Li's relentless onslaught, blood rained down from above. With a sigh of relief, Qin Li observed that he had inflicted a wound on the beast and hastily retreated from the 10,000 great mountains. The celestial winged bull python, initially taken aback by the injury, soon glared at Qin Li with murderous intent. As the creature advanced towards him, Qin Li fled towards the barrier. A quarter of an hour later, standing outside the barrier, Qin Li watched as the massive form of the celestial winged bull python relentlessly battered against it. Satisfied that the creature could not breach the barrier, he turned away from the 10,000 great mountains, contemplating the nine-tailed fox, which he planned to confront at a later time. For now, he felt it was futile to attempt to defeat it, especially with a dominant beast like the celestial winged bull python lurking nearby, an endeavor akin to chasing a mirage. Upon returning to the Qingyun sect, Qin Li feigned normalcy. Days later, the sect erupted in chaos as the events in Yunxi town came to light. News of the nine-tailed fox, a fearsome beast, killing numerous disciples spread throughout the Qingyun sect. Yet, this revelation was not the most startling. The real shock was the news that the celestial winged bull python had been injured by an unknown assailant. Although many were skeptical, the evidence was irrefutable, as numerous cultivators who had witnessed the incident confirmed the mysterious power that had harmed the beast, blood spilling into the sky. The entire continent's leading forces were left astounded. However, no one knew which formidable figure had managed to wound the celestial winged bull python. The tale of this mysterious warrior spread like wildfire across the land. At that moment, in the Qingyun sect graveyard, Qin Li lounged comfortably at the entrance, legs crossed and a blade of grass between his lips. Senior brother, the voice of Siyu suddenly broke through his reverie. Qin Li opened his eyes to see Siyu, brimming with excitement, accompanied by Su Wenshan. Puzzled by her enthusiasm, he looked at her in confusion. Senior brother, Siyu exclaimed. Speak plainly, your incessant calling is vexing. Qin Li replied with impatience. Senior brother, Su Shidi and I have been selected to enter the Sea and Mountain Secret Realm. Siyu announced, her excitement palpable. The Sea and Mountain Secret Realm? Qin Li echoed. Yes, out of the entire sect, only 12 brothers have been chosen, and Su Shidi and I are among them. She beamed, her eyes sparkling like crescent moons as she spoke to Qin Li. The Sea and Mountain Secret Realm. The Mountain and Sea Secret Realm, the largest hidden domain within the empire of the Qingyun sect, is said to harbor countless treasures of heaven and earth. Qin Li had ventured there once before, and upon his return, he ascended from the Divine Concealment Realm to the Purple Mansion Realm, a breakthrough attributed to acquiring a purple divine herb within the Secret Realm. The mountain and sea secret realm consists of 5 layers, and at that time, Qin Li's cultivation allowed him to access only the 4th layer, as the 5th layer is reserved for the most exceptional talents. Unfortunately, Qin Li did not belong to that elite group and was unable to enter. Nevertheless, the first 4 layers are replete with treasures. Each layer of the mountain and sea secret realm is expansive, and no one has fully explored them to this day. Moreover, only those below the Purple Mansion realm are permitted entry. Should Qin Li attempt to enter now, he would likely be repelled by the array. Indeed, since he has chosen to journey to the mountain and sea secret realm, it is wise to prepare in advance. I shall soon share the locations I have previously visited within the secret realm, allowing you to consider the best strategies for maximizing your gains. Qin Li remarked with a smile towards Cu and Su Wenshan. Chapter 24, Seeking a Mentor? I knew you were the best, senior brother. Hehe. Cu smiled at Qin Li. One of the reasons Cu had come to visit Qin Li today was to hear about the mountain and sea secret realm. She had long yearned for such knowledge. With her master having finally secured a spot, it was indeed crucial, as Qin Li suggested, to ensure they did not miss out. No need to thank me. I can read your thoughts, you know, Qin Li said, his expression warm as he gazed at Cu. Having known Cu for so long, he felt he could accurately guess her thoughts. Su Wenshan, I am aware of your background. I expect to see Cu return safely, or you shall know the consequences. And you, young lady, remember that the greatest dangers within the mountain and sea secret realm are not the beasts or traps, but the hearts of men. This should be clear to you. Qin Li cautioned. Su Wenshan felt a shiver run down his spine, suddenly recalling his master's warnings. He inhaled sharply and nodded obediently, saying, Senior brother, I will ensure Sister Cu's safety, please do not worry. Qin Li nodded at Su Wenshan and retrieved 2 talismans from his pocket, offering one to each of them. As before, I provide you both with a talisman capable of vanquishing those in the primordial spirit realm. Su Wenshan and Cu accepted the talismans and stored them away. Although Qin Li knew they each possessed some of his talismans already, it is always prudent to prepare for the unforeseen. He subtly infused a strand of sword energy into Cu's body. With this energy, even the presence of a cunning 9-tailed fox could be withstood for a time. Currently, Su Wenshan possesses 2 talismans that can annihilate beings of the primordial spirit realm, while Cu holds 3 talismans, 2 capable of the same feat, and 1 that can eliminate those in the void realm. This grants them a means of self-defense within the mountain and sea secret realm. Outside of it, these talismans would be considered formidable trump cards, but within the secret realm, most entrants are distinguished prodigies, princes of the empire, or young masters of sections. Their means of survival do not rely solely on these talismans. After a brief moment, Qin Li meticulously noted down the locations of the treasure-seeking expedition in the Shanghai secret realm, as well as some safe havens, instructing Cu and Su Wenshan to carry them carefully. He emphasized the importance of not separating from one another. Su Wenshan and Cu nodded obediently, responding, Senior brother, we are not children anymore, we understand this. I am aware that you are not children, Qin Li replied with a grave expression directed at Cu. However, I cannot accompany you into the Shanghai secret realm. When the time comes, it will be a matter of life and death, so please do not act recklessly. He felt reassured about Su Wenshan, as he appeared to fit the mold of the quintessential underdog protagonist. Senior brother, Cu pouted, her displeasure evident. In that moment, her frustrated demeanor was somewhat endearing. She could not comprehend why she seemed to pale in comparison to Su Wenshan in Qin Li's eyes. Su Shidi, when do you plan to set off for the secret realm? Qin Li inquired. The master said we need to arrive at the Shanghai secret realm a month from now, so we must leave half a month in advance, Su Wenshan responded. Given this timeline, there is no opportunity to enhance your cultivation. Therefore, focus on improving your martial skills or other aspects, Qin Li advised Su Wenshan. Understood, Su Wenshan nodded. Suddenly, he spoke up, Senior brother Qin Li. I wish to take you as my mentor. To take me as your mentor? Qin Li raised an eyebrow at Su Wenshan. Yes, Su Wenshan replied, taking a deep breath and nodding resolutely. Su Shidi? Cu looked at Su Wenshan, puzzled, unsure of what had prompted him to seek Qin Li as a mentor today. Upon hearing Su Wenshan's request, Qin Li's lips curled into a subtle smile. Is Elder Yunhe unable to teach you? Su Wenshan shook his head in response. Elder Yunhe has taught me, but I wish to pursue the pinnacle of martial arts. The pinnacle of martial arts? Qin Li mused, intrigued. Yes, Su Wenshan affirmed with a nod. Why do you seek the pinnacle of martial arts? Is your current state not satisfactory? Qin Li asked, his tone laced with curiosity. Senior brother, there are matters I cannot disclose. I hope you understand, Su Wenshan replied, his expression solemn as he glanced at the ring on his hand. I understand. Su Shidi. However, I cannot accept your request to be your mentor. Qin Li paused, observing the dimming light in Su Wenshan's eyes. With a gentle smile, he pointed to the ring on Su Wenshan's hand and added, but I can serve as your teacher, just as that esteemed figure in your heart does." As soon as he finished speaking, the once dull glimmer in Su Wenshan's eyes ignited with brilliance. He knelt down on both knees and expressed, "Thank you, senior brother Qin Li. If I ever have the chance in the future, I will repay your kindness." Seeing Su Wenshan kneeling before him, Qin Li smiled slightly. "There is no need for such formality. I do not adhere to these customs. Seeking me as your mentor and pursuing the pinnacle of martial arts, is it not for that esteemed teacher you hold in your heart?" Su Wenshan was momentarily taken aback by Qin Li's words, recalling what his own mentor had once said. It dawned on him that Qin Li might already have some knowledge of his situation. Upon reflecting on this, Su Wenshan nodded at Qin Li and said, "I wish to avenge that teacher. Come to me tomorrow, and I shall guide you." Upon hearing Su Wenshan's response, Qin Li thought to himself that he had indeed not misjudged. Su Wenshan undoubtedly had an elder presence. At this moment, the white-haired youth within Su Wenshan's ring felt an immense sense of satisfaction. Though he was not physically present, he was aware of everything happening in the outside world. The white-haired youth understood the tremendous effort Su Wenshan had exerted to assist him in seeking vengeance, tirelessly practicing day and night. "Your teacher is fortunate to have you," Qin Li remarked enviously, gesturing towards the ring. "Isn't my teacher you?" Su Wenshan suddenly chuckled, scratching the back of his head. "Indeed," Qin Li replied with a smile. Standing beside them, Siyu furrowed her brow, listening in confusion to the exchange between Su Wenshan and Qin Li. She was utterly perplexed and had no idea what they were discussing. Master, the teacher in your heart. Ultimately, Siyu only grasped that her senior brother, Qin Li, had become the teacher of her junior, Su Wenshan. After a moment, Siyu could no longer contain herself and inquired of Qin Li, "Senior brother, what are you talking about? I don't understand a word." Qin Li glanced back at Siyu and said, "If you understood, you would be my senior sister. If you won't say, then I shall ask the master later." Siyu replied to Qin Li, "Senior sister, you must not. This is a secret between me and senior brother Qin Li. It would not be good for you to know," Su Wenshan interjected, waving his hand and stepping in front of Siyu with a serious demeanor. "Is that true?" Siyu questioned, her tone laced with curiosity. "Indeed, it is true. Knowing too much would not benefit you," Qin Li said with a smile as he approached Siyu and ruffled her hair. Chapter 25. The elder finally appears at the Qin Sect's cemetery. Siyu observed Qin Li and Su Wenshan, nodding in acknowledgement. Before departing, Qin Li addressed Su Wenshan, "Junior brother Su, do not forget what I have told you." Su Wenshan halted, turned to Qin Li, and bowed. "Understood, senior brother. I shall not disappoint your expectations." Ignoring Siyu's murderous gaze, Su Wenshan returned to his residence. That evening, after preparing at his abode, Su Wenshan made his way to the cemetery. At the small house's entrance, he knocked and called out, "Senior brother Qin Li, I have arrived." Qin Li, seated inside, stood up, opened the door, and nodded at Su Wenshan. "You are quite early." As Qin Li intended to pass Su Wenshan to reach the open space behind the mountain, Su Wenshan suddenly spoke, "Teacher Qin Li, I wish to introduce you to someone." "Introduce me to someone?" Upon hearing Su Wenshan's words, Qin Li paused, intrigued, and looked at Su Wenshan. Su Wenshan's expression was unusually serious as he nodded. "It is my teacher." "Very well," Qin Li replied, smiling at Su Wenshan's demeanor. "Call him out. I am indeed curious about your teacher." "All right." Su Wenshan nodded, and in the next moment, a plume of white smoke erupted from the ring adorning his hand. The white-haired youth materialized before Qin Li, a smile gracing his face, his striking white hair capturing attention. At last, the real person had appeared. Qin Li, with an expression of calmness, addressed the white-haired youth. "I am Qian Fan, honored to meet you, senior." Qian Fan offered a respectful bow to Qin Li. In Qian Fan's eyes, Qin Li was undoubtedly a reincarnation of an unparalleled powerhouse, akin to himself. Otherwise, such formidable strength would be inexplicable. "Senior, you flatter me. I am merely an ordinary disciple of the Qin Sect," Qin Li replied with a smile. "You jest. In my eyes, the entire Qin Sect combined would not measure up to even a single finger of yours," Qian Fan remarked. He was merely an ordinary disciple of the Qin Sect, fortunate enough to have acquired a system. Otherwise, Qin Li would likely have succumbed to the encroaching death energy, reduced to a living corpse. "You jest, senior," Qian Fan chuckled silently, believing Qin Li was merely granting him an easy way out. "Allow me to introduce myself as well. I am Qin Li, a disciple tasked with guarding the tombs of the Qin Sect," Qin Li said, smiling as he introduced himself to Qian Fan. Encountering the legendary elder for the first time was truly exhilarating. As he spoke, Qin Li observed Qian Fan closely. Qian Fan was indeed the rumored golden finger of the useless faction, the legendary elder. "Junior Su, you have requested that I become your teacher and impart martial arts to you. May I inquire if you have consulted with my friend Qian Fan?" Qin Li inquired cheerfully of Su Wenshan. In the midst of his words, Qin Li elevated both himself and Qian Fan to equal standing. It is I who has willingly suggested that Su Wenshan become your disciple, Qian Fan said, approaching Su Wenshan and bowing respectfully to Qin Li. Qin Li questioned, a hint of skepticism in his tone. Qian Fan, gazing at Qin Li, explained, ever since I witnessed you effortlessly slay the Cave Void Realm's arm-extending monkey with a single sword strike, I resolved to have Wenshan seek you as his master. I am aware that what I can currently teach him is limited. However, you, Qin Li, are different. Even at my peak, I could not see through your depths. Thus, I dared to suggest Wenshan take you as his mentor. I hope you do not take offense. Qian Fan spoke with an apologetic tone. Qin Li nodded, smiling as he replied, no offense taken, but are you certain you can entrust Junior Su to me for his instruction? Are you not concerned I might lead him astray? As soon as he spoke, Qian Fan hastily shook his head, saying, if you claim you might lead someone astray, then I have already done so myself. Allowing Wenshan to take you as his master is merely a step back onto the right path. Upon hearing Qian Fan's words, a sly smile crept across Qin Li's lips as he addressed Qian Fan. I can certainly guide Junior Su. However, I am curious as to how you came to reside within this ring. I am most eager to learn the tale within. Qian Fan cast a troubled glance at Qin Li. Just as Su Wenshan was about to speak, Qian Fan interrupted him with a gesture, appearing as though he was struggling to find the right words. After a lengthy pause, Qian Fan finally spoke. Qin Li, this is a painful chapter of my past. Not easily shared. If it cannot be spoken of, then so be it. Who among us does not harbor a few secrets? Qin Li replied with a smile. Qin Li was in high spirits tonight, having received praise from the legendary old man, nearly causing him to float with delight. Let us proceed to practice our martial arts, he declared, turning to Su Wenshan and waving his hand as he ventured deeper into the graveyard. Indeed, Su Wenshan and Qian Fan followed suit. Before long, the trio arrived at a clearing, its surface uneven and pockmarked, a designated place for future practitioners to rest. Currently, Qin Li utilized it as a training ground. Su Shidi, as your teacher, I may have little to offer you, but I shall gift you a volume of martial techniques, Qin Li said with a smile, producing a book of martial arts and handing it to Su Wenshan. This tome contained the revered heaven-slaying technique. Heaven-slaying technique? Su Wenshan inquired, glancing at the characters inscribed on the cover. Indeed, though I am uncertain of its precise rank, I see you are also a practitioner of the sword. So this swordsmanship shall belong to you, Qin Li remarked, noting the long sword sheathed at Su Wenshan's waist. Thank you, teacher, Su Wenshan replied, his gratitude evident in his nod. The term teacher carrying a warm familiarity that stirred Qin Li's heart. He couldn't help but reflect on the irony of a transmigrator instructing a seemingly inept protagonist in martial arts. In a sense, he had become a golden finger, akin to an old man bestowing blessings. By the way, let me present you with a weapon as well. As the words left his lips, a long sword materialized in Qin Li's hand. Here you go, he offered, handing the sword to Su Wenshan. A fine sword, Su Wenshan exclaimed, taking it and testing its weight, discovering it far superior to the one he had been carrying, entirely of a different grade. He cherished it, gently caressing its surface. The sword he had previously possessed was a low-grade earth-tier weapon, which he now stowed away in his spatial ring. This sword, named the Swimming Dragon Sword, came with a corresponding technique entitled Swimming Dragon Swordplay. This swordplay pales in comparison to the heaven-slaying technique I have given you, so I shall not provide it, Qin Li advised, gesturing towards the Swimming Dragon Sword. Qin Daoyu, your generosity is commendable, Qian Fan remarked. Not at all, it is but a trifle. I have plenty such items at my disposal. They are of little significance, Qin Li replied. His words bore truth. He possessed no fewer than 80 weapons akin to the Swimming Dragon Sword, yet he held them in disdain, finding them unworthy when compared to the heaven-slaying sword. As time slipped away, dawn broke over the Qingyun sect graveyard. Qin Li stood amidst the tombstones, lifting a teacup to his lips, observing Su Wenshan practicing swordplay nearby. He nodded at Qian Fan, stating, Su Shidi's aptitude is indeed remarkable. After a night of rigorous training, Su Wenshan had already grasped the fundamentals of the heaven-slaying technique. Such talent was indeed formidable. Sweating profusely, his clothes drenched, Su Wenshan continued his practice without a hint of fatigue, showing no intention to cease. Qian Fan and Qin Li exchanged glances filled with appreciation, their hearts swelling with pride as Su Wenshan demonstrated such dedication. The more he exerted himself, the more they felt gratified. Who does not admire a clever and capable disciple? Qian Fan glanced at Su Wenshan, then turned to Qin Li with a smile and nodded, saying, this is thanks to Taoist Qin Li's excellent guidance. He surpasses me greatly. Qian Fan regarded Qin Li with a gaze imbued with significance. Earlier that night, Qin Li had elucidated the heaven-slaying technique to Su Wenshan, and Qian Fan stood by, absorbing the profound understanding Qin Li possessed regarding swordsmanship. He was left utterly astonished. While he had encountered many martial arts masters before, none spoke with the depth of insight that Qin Li demonstrated. Initially, Qian Fan harbored some concerns, believing that although Qin Li's cultivation was high, his comprehension of martial arts might not be as profound. Yet, upon witnessing Qin Li's prowess, he realized that even 100 of his own combined efforts would pale in comparison. In that moment, Qian Fan felt that addressing Qin Li as a peer was an affront to his capabilities. He believed that entrusting Su Wenshan to Qin Li's tutelage would surely lead Su Wenshan to surpass his own prior achievements and grow even stronger. Perhaps, one day, transcending the void to ascend to a higher realm would not be out of reach. Qian Fan cast a deep glance at Qin Li, perplexed by how someone so powerful and insightful could be found here. This led him to contemplate a possibility. Perhaps Qin Li was a reincarnation of a supreme being from the upper realm. In the graveyard, upon hearing Qian Fan's words, Qin Li chuckled and replied, "It's nothing. I merely offered a few pointers." While outwardly Qin Li appeared nonchalant, inwardly he was stirred by waves of emotion. Being praised by the elderly gentleman felt splendid, as if he held the sun and moon in his grasp, unmatched in the world. Qin Li reveled in this sentiment, blissfully unaware of his esteemed position in Qian Fan's eyes. Had he known, he might have taken up his sword and ventured into the 10,000 great mountains to slay the azure sky winged dragon python, brewing wine for Qian Fan. Taoist Qian Fan, I see that you are currently a spiritual entity. Should you require a corporeal form, do not hesitate to inform me, and I shall assist you. Qin Li declared, patting his chest. Thank you, Taoist Qin Li, but for now, it is best to refrain, Qian Fan replied, his eyes dimming. Why? Qin Li inquired. His brows furrowed. To speak frankly, Taoist Qin Li, my soul has been marked by an enemy, preventing me from directly locating a physical vessel to inhabit. I must first eliminate this soul mark before I can possess a body. Otherwise, my enemies would discover my whereabouts, resulting in great turmoil, not only for Su Wenshan and Qinyan sect, but also for you. Taoist Qin Li, Qian Fan explained, a note of despondency in his voice. A soul mark? Qin Li murmured, his brow knitting in contemplation. He understood that the type of soul mark Qian Fan mentioned was of a considerably high grade, akin to a soul brand. Su Wenshan's diligent cultivation likely served, in part, to aid Qian Fan in dispelling this soul mark, Qin Li suggested, gesturing towards Su Wenshan. With a sigh, Qian Fan glanced at Su Wenshan and nodded, saying, Wenshan has been like a child I watched grow up. I am acquainted with his parents, and we are old friends. It was his parents who helped me escape and found this soul-nurturing ring, allowing me to reside within it. Regrettably, not long after, his parents were captured and have since gone missing. Qian Fan gazed up at the sky, his voice tinged with sorrow. Is the offending power quite substantial? Qin Li inquired as he lifted his teacup. Indeed, Qian Fan nodded in response. Does this child have any hope of avenging himself in this lifetime? Qin Li asked. The prospects are bleak. However, if you, my friend Qin Li, were to intervene, there might still be a chance, Qian Fan remarked, casting a glance at Qin Li. Qian Fan had two primary motives for allowing Su Wenshan to apprentice under Qin Li. The first was to provide Su Wenshan with a source of support, and the second was the hope that, if circumstances permitted, Qin Li could assist Su Wenshan in the future. Upon hearing Qian Fan's words, Qin Li smiled knowingly. He had surmised the underlying reason for Su Wenshan's apprenticeship. Qian Fan likely wished for him to lend a helping hand to Su Wenshan down the line. Though Qian Fan's intentions were somewhat self-serving, every word he spoke rang true. Indeed, compared to teaching Su Wenshan, Qin Li was vastly superior in capability. Qian Fan willingly accepted this arrangement. Even if Qin Li did not offer assistance in the future, at the very least, he would have a formidable ally to rely upon in times of need. As Su Wenshan's mentor, Qin Li would inevitably extend his support. A gentle breeze wafted through the air. Qin Li took a sip from his teacup and turned his gaze towards Su Wenshan, addressing Qian Fan. I understand your intentions. My friend, should that day come, I will take action. After finishing his tea, Qin Li rose and approached Su Wenshan, placing a hand on his arm. Enough practice for now. Take a break. It's dawn. Let us return and rest. Engrossed in his sword practice, Su Wenshan felt Qin Li's grip and attempted to free himself, but it was as if his arm had been ensnared. Resigned, Su Wenshan looked up at Qin Li and nodded. Understood, master. Yes, return early to rest. The celestial severance technique is not easily mastered. There is no need to rush. Progress gradually, Qin Li advised Su Wenshan. Got it, Su Wenshan affirmed with a nod. He approached Qian Fan and offered a greeting. I must take my leave now. Esteemed friend Qin Li. Until tonight. Qian Fan stood, nodding towards Qin Li, before transforming into a wisp of white smoke and vanishing into the soul-nurturing ring. Su Wenshan touched the ring, bid farewell to Qin Li, and departed. Qin Li watched Su Wenshan's retreating figure and nodded. Indeed, such is the fate of the protagonist. I wonder how far he shall ultimately go. However, as a seemingly ineffectual protagonist, Su Wenshan also lacked a girlfriend with a powerful background. Qin Li mused with a hint of mischief. In Tales of the Underdog, the male lead invariably requires a girlfriend of significant standing. Whether she be a maid at his side, a companion encountered during his trials, or a distant kin who supports him in his lowest moments. These are archetypes of the female lead. With this thought, Qin Li mused aloud. I wonder if the story will unfold according to such a narrative? Chapter 27. Departure to the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. Time swiftly passed. In the blink of an eye, 2 weeks had elapsed. At the graveyard of Qin Li sect, the evening sky was adorned with countless stars, and the moonlight bathed the earth in its silvery glow before the familiar thatched cottage. Qin Li and Qian Fan continued to sip tea while observing Su Wenshan practice his swordsmanship. Over the past 2 weeks, Su Wenshan had made remarkable progress. With the guidance of Qian Fan and Qin Li, improvement was inevitable. He had already attained the rudimentary level of the heaven-slaying sword technique. Upon reaching this stage, Su Wenshan truly grasped the terrifying nature of this sword art and thought to himself, no wonder Qin Li could slay beasts in the cave void realm with a single strike. Although Su Wenshan was currently at the foundation establishment level, his strength had undergone a tremendous transformation. Should a warrior from the divine concealment realm engage him in a life-and-death battle, Su Wenshan might not necessarily be at a disadvantage. Against a Purple Mansion realm opponent, he possessed the capability to escape. It could be said that he had significantly upgraded his arsenal. Qin Li lifted his teacup and remarked to Qian Fan, my dear friend, I estimate that Su Shidi should have no trouble entering the sea and mountain secret realm now. Protecting himself should not pose any issues. Qian Fan nodded in agreement, replying, thanks to you, Qin Li, in these past few days, Wenshan has made such astonishing progress. Not a problem, it's merely a small favor. After all, I consider myself half a teacher to him, and I have my own motives. That girl, Siyu, whom you are familiar with, I have been worried about her safety in the secret realm. With Su Wenshan accompanying her, I can rest easy. Qin Li said with a smile as he raised his teacup towards Qian Fan. As dawn gradually broke, Su Wenshan sheathed his sword and approached Qin Li and Qian Fan. Bowing respectfully, he addressed Qin Li, Teacher Lao Qin, I am set to depart for the sea and mountain secret realm today. I will ensure that junior sister Siyu is well protected. Please do not worry. Su Wenshan assured Qin Li with an unwavering gaze. Seeing this, Qin Li smiled and replied, be cautious on your journey to the sea and mountain secret realm. It is not to be taken lightly. Su Wenshan nodded in acknowledgement and turned to look at Qian Fan. Understanding his intent, Qian Fan rose, bowed to Qin Li, and transformed into a wisp of white smoke. Returning to his ring, disciple takes his leave, Su Wenshan said as he bowed to Qin Li. Understood. Hurry along now, Qin Li urged, rising and waving his hand with a smile. Standing in the graveyard, Qin Li watched Su Wenshan's retreating figure down the mountain and nodded in admiration, murmuring to himself, this fellow truly embodies the protagonist. His perseverance, talent, and fortune are commendable. Otherwise, how could he assume the role of the main character? As he spoke, Qin Li couldn't help but chuckle at himself. Indeed, without such qualities, one could hardly expect to play the lead role. The sea and mountain secret realm piqued his interest. With some free time on his hands lately, it would be a fine opportunity to explore. Qin Li mused cheerfully. Siyu had been confined by Elder Yunhe due to her impending journey to the sea and mountain secret realm, receiving special training to enhance her skills. Consequently, she had not visited Qin Li in recent days, leaving him somewhat bored. Although Su Wenshan came by every evening, his reticent nature made it difficult for Qin Li to find amusement. It seemed he would be better off seeking Qian Fan for entertainment. Over these past 10 days, Qin Li had nearly grown weary of drinking tea. Thus, Qin Li resolved to stealthily follow Su Wenshan and his companions to meander through the mysterious realm of Shanghai, especially since the current location of the Qin Li sect was nearing the completion of its attendance. Venturing to other places for attendance was not out of the question. At present, Qin Li possessed sufficient strength to ensure his own safety within the entirety of the Qingyun Empire, no longer plagued by the anxieties he faced during his initial crossing. He soared into the air, concealing his presence, and arrived at the small courtyard where Elder Yunhe and Siyu resided. In the courtyard, Elder Yunhe and Siyu stood at the entrance, seemingly awaiting someone's arrival. After a while, Su Wenshan appeared before Elder Yunhe and Siyu, causing Elder Yunhe to visibly relax. She had been deeply concerned for Su Wenshan. Initially, she intended to confine both Su Wenshan and Siyu together for training. However, on that fateful day, Su Wenshan declined to train alongside Siyu and rejected Elder Yunhe's assistance. Elder Yunhe's eyes were filled with confusion and surprise, while Siyu remained composed. as she was aware of the underlying truth. Siyu understood why Su Wenshan refused Elder Yunha's help. After all, senior brother Qin Li surpassed Elder Yunha in every conceivable aspect. If Su Wenshan had acquiesced, it would have surprised Siyu. Elder Yunha wished to persist in assisting Su Wenshan's cultivation, yet he continually evaded her efforts, ultimately inciting her ire. She declared that she would no longer concern herself with Su Wenshan. Elder Yunha remained oblivious to the fact that she was ill-equipped to teach Su Wenshan. Even Qian Fan was unworthy, with only Qin Li capable of imparting knowledge to him. How could Elder Yunha compare to Qin Li? In every regard, Qin Li eclipsed Elder Yunha. Should a Yuan Shun realm elder confront him, Qin Li would vanquish them effortlessly. Thus, Elder Yunha, displeased, took Siyu for private training, leaving Su Wenshan to his own devices. In Elder Yunha's eyes, Su Wenshan had become a hopeless cause, one she had abandoned. However, it would be disingenuous to claim she was unconcerned. After all, the opportunity to enter the mysterious realm of Shanhai was something Elder Yunha had diligently sought. Should any misfortune befall Su Wenshan within, as his master, she would be reluctant to witness such a scene. Hence, she arrived early to await Su Wenshan alongside Siyu. After more than 10 days of intensive training, Su Wenshan's demeanor had undergone a profound transformation, his entire presence elevated. Although his cultivation remained at the foundation establishment stage, his strength had markedly improved. It was likely that he would now surpass Siyu in a confrontation. Junior brother Su. Siyu exclaimed excitedly as Su Wenshan appeared before her. Sister Siyu, Su Wenshan responded, hastening to greet her. Subsequently, he turned to Elder Yunha and bowed respectfully, saying, Master. Elder Yunha furrowed her brow, scrutinizing Su Wenshan. Sensing something amiss, yet she could not articulate it. Finally, a cold snort escaped her lips, accompanied by an expression that seemed to ask, Do you still recognize me? This provoked a chuckle from Qin Li. How old are you? Yet still throwing childish tantrums. Qin Li could not help but mock inwardly. Let us depart to the entrance of the sect and gather there before heading to the mountain and see secret realm. Elder Yun, he spoke to Su Wenshan. Understood, master. Su Wenshan replied respectfully with a nod. Soon, Su Wenshan and his 2 companions arrived at the entrance of the Qinyan sect. At this moment, more than 10 disciples and 3 elders, all prepared to embark on their journey to the mountain and see secret realm, awaited the signal to set off. As soon as Su Wenshan and his companions arrived, the leading elder of the Qingyun sect raised his hand and declared, Let us depart. No sooner had the words left his lips than the members of Qingyun sect, their faces alight with excitement, turned away from the sect and began their trek toward the mountain and sea secret realm. Chapter 28. White Sheep City, a grand and ancient metropolis, or the scars of time upon its towering bluestone bricks. Within the main hall of the city lord's residence, a middle-aged man clad in a light blue robe sat in the principal seat, addressing the armored soldiers kneeling before him. In 3 days, the mountain and sea secret realm will open. Our White Sheep City is in close proximity to the site, and we shall host many talented youths seeking refuge here. It is imperative that we maintain order within the city. The man, known as Baiyu, was the city lord of White Sheep City and a warrior of the Dongxi realm. Due to its unique geographical location, White Sheep City frequently welcomed disciples participating in the mountain and sea secret realm. One soldier replied to Baiyu, My lord, shall we proceed with the same arrangements as in previous years? Baiyu nodded in response, as long as it follows the usual protocol. This year may be somewhat exceptional, but it poses no issue. The soldier acknowledged with a nod and turned to leave. Observing the soldier's departure, Baiyu rose from his seat and addressed the screen beside him. Li Gonggong, you may come out now. As the words fell, a young man with heavily applied white makeup emerged from behind the screen, speaking in a voice reminiscent of a duck's quack. City Lord Bai, this year, 3 princes will be attending the mountain and sea secret realm. We must ensure their safety. It would be disastrous if anything were to happen to them. Li Gonggong paused, delicately gesturing toward Baiyu's head. Otherwise, it seems your head may not remain intact. Baiyu, unfazed by Li Gonggong's words, simply smiled and replied, Rest assured, I, Baiyu, will guarantee their absolute safety. There shall be no issues whatsoever. That is good to hear, Li Gonggong said, settling into a chair. Baiyu, watching him, could not suppress a cold scoff in his heart, thinking, I have served as the city lord of White Sheep City for quite some time. This is one area where I surpass you, you old schemer. Baiyu then exited the grand hall, gazing at the azure sky as he murmured to himself. 3 princes arriving at this juncture to enter the mountain and sea secret realm. How curious. They must be the least favored. For how else could the emperor permit them to enter at such a time? This year's mountain and sea secret realm differed from previous years, notably due to the participation of 3 princes. Moreover, a disciple of the corpse controlling sect has appeared in Baiyang City. 3 months prior, during a soldier patrol, Traces of the disciple employing the art of corpse control were discovered. This has been a great concern for Bai Yu, who, although apprehensive, dared not escalate the matter and instead reported it to His Majesty, pleading for assistance. Should the corpse-controlling sect decide to make a move on the mountain and sea secret realm, it would likely result in a cataclysmic upheaval within the entire dynasty. However, it has been 3 months since this incident, and no correspondence has arrived from the imperial city. No envoys have been dispatched. Ultimately, only the esteemed eunuch Liu, seated in the grand hall with a cup of tea, arrived accompanied by a contingent of imperial guards. The implication was clear. The affairs of the corpse-controlling sect were to be disregarded. The mountain and sea secret realm was to continue its operations, and the 3 princes were to ensure its protection. What, after all, are the true intentions of the corpse-controlling sect? Bai Yu furrowed his brow, his heart racing primarily due to the threat posed by the sect. Should the corpse-controlling sect gain momentum, it would be a devastating blow to the dynasty, effortlessly toppling it. But there is no need for haste, Bai Yu thought, smiling as he shook his head and returned to the grand hall. At the entrance of Baiyang City, the delegation from Qin Li's sect had already arrived, currently queuing to verify their identities before gaining entry. Behind them, Qin Li, disguised as a young man, blended into the throng entering the city. Given the substantial number of participants attending the mountain and sea secret realm, representatives from various sects were abundant. After half an hour at the city gate, it was finally Qin Li's turn. He unleashed his aura of the void realm, causing the city guards to forego identity verification and respectfully present him with a token. Although those of the void realm need not present identification, the token is a requisite for entry into Baiyang City, serving to prevent any disturbances. This token possesses a positioning function, facilitating the search for Qin Li when necessary. However, elders from certain sects of the dynasty would not receive identity tokens, as they could be located directly through their respective sections. Generally, void realm practitioners are not prone to causing trouble, but the same cannot be said for rogue practitioners. Due to the token's uniqueness, to avoid offending void realm practitioners, it not only serves as a locator but also grants various privileges within Baiyang City, such as complimentary lodging and meals. In essence, it functions like a black card, offering universal benefits. As Qin Li accepted the token, he mused, beyond its positioning utility, this token ensures my comfort in Baiyang City, at least safeguarding me from any unwarranted disturbances. With that thought, he affixed the token to his waist. The sounds of street vendors hawking their wares, the brothel madams enticing patrons, and the clashes from the martial arenas filled Qin Li's ears, creating a truly extraordinary atmosphere. He occasionally spotted a few young maidens clad in fitted attire and wide-brimmed hats, reminiscent of ancient heroines, which piqued his interest greatly. Before long, Qin Li located the Qin Li sect delegation, who had arrived at an inn and were in the process of checking in. Stepping into the inn, he acknowledged the presence of the void realm practitioners. The elder leading the Qin Li sect, named Xian Yi, a formidable figure within the void realm, noticed Qin Li's entrance and caught sight of the token hanging from his waist. Upon observing the arrival of another void realm expert, Xian Yi exchanged glances with Elder Yun He and another elder named Xian Ming who stood behind him. Both elders, understanding the silent cue, placed their hands on their weapons, prepared to protect their disciple should any unusual circumstances arise. Previously, there had been an incident in Baiyang City where rogue cultivators of the Void Realm had brutally attacked disciples from sects attending the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. Following that event, the city enforced strict regulations on high-level rogue cultivators, particularly during the period of the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. As Qin Li approached the staircase, he cast a meaningful glance at Siyu and Su Wenshan. Once he ascended, Xian Yi, Xian Ming, and Elder Yun He finally relaxed, withdrawing their hands from their weapons and exchanging knowing looks. Xian Yi turned to the two elders, stating, "Elder Xian Ming, Elder Yun He, let us remain vigilant these next few days to avoid any unforeseen incidents." Both elders nodded in agreement, aware that having an unfamiliar rogue cultivator of the Void Realm residing next door was far from ideal. On the second floor of the inn, Qin Li pushed open his door, stepped inside, and closed it behind him, employing his spiritual sense to monitor any disturbances below. Under his watchful gaze, it wasn't long before Xian Yi completed the check-in process and led the disciples of the Qin Yun sect to the second floor, coincidentally residing in the room adjacent to Qin Li's. Whether this was mere coincidence or deliberate intent remained uncertain. But Qin Li could not help but smile slightly upon realizing Xian Yi was next door. As time passed gradually, night fell upon Baiyang City. Contrary to the typical stillness that darkness brings, the city thrived with an even greater vibrancy, reminiscent of an unending night. Qin Li sat by the window, observing the bustling streets below, contemplating a leisurely stroll. Dressed appropriately, he ventured outside. Just as he opened the door, he heard a creak as the door next to him swung open. revealing Qin Li stepping out and lingering momentarily in front of Qin Li's doorway. Moments later, Qin Li discreetly exited the inn, concealing his aura and trailing Qin Li from a distance. As Qin Li walked along the street, he suddenly sensed he was being followed, causing alarm to surge within him. Frowning, he employed his spiritual sense to investigate. A familiar figure materialized in his perception. Elder Qin Li was indeed tailing him. What is Elder Qin Li doing behind me? Qin Li wondered aloud, glancing back in curiosity. Shortly thereafter, an idea struck him, and he chuckled, shaking his head and nonchalantly continuing his stroll, occasionally meandering through alleyways. Meanwhile, Qin Li, frowning in contemplation, muttered to himself, "Could he have noticed my presence?" Xuanya wore a perplexed expression, sensing something amiss since earlier. It felt as though Qin Li had been circling around him, seemingly having discovered his presence. However, Xuanya held unwavering confidence in his concealment techniques, unable to believe that he could be detected. Just as Xuanya was lost in his thoughts, Qin Li stood before him, glancing at the patterns etched into his palm. Suddenly, a wicked smile crept across his lips as he muttered to himself, "I hope Elder Xuanya does not harbor resentment towards me." As soon as the words left his mouth, Qin Li grasped the immortal slaying sword, drawing it forth with a swift motion. In the next instant, a flash of white light flickered, followed by a whoosh as the sound of the air being sliced resounded. Xuanya, caught off guard, could not defend himself in time and was struck by the sword energy, causing him to be hurled backward, crashing into the wall. With another whoosh, Qin Li teleported directly in front of Xuanya. Before Xuanya could react, he was lifted off the ground, rendered utterly helpless. How can he be this powerful? Xuanya pondered, his head bowed in disbelief, unable to comprehend why the disparity between them, both being in the void realm, was so vast that he had no chance to retaliate. Qin Li, looking down at the helpless Xuanya, sported a mischievous grin and remarked, "Elder Xuanya of the Qin Sect, is it?" Upon hearing Qin Li's inquiry, Xuanya remained silent. Noticing Xuanya's demeanor, Qin Li chuckled and said, "If you choose not to speak, I shall simply eliminate all the disciples of the Qin Sect in this inn. In that case, you shall be the sole survivor. I wonder how you will account for that." Qin Li's voice, chilling as if from the depths of hell, sent a shiver down Xuanya's spine. With a resigned sigh, Xuanya realized he could no longer conceal the truth. Trembling, he replied, "I am Xuanya, elder of the Qin Sect, and I pay my respects to you, senior." "Senior?" Qin Li laughed heartily, finding amusement in the irony. "As a senior, I am being followed by a junior. Little one, do enlighten me. What is your purpose in trailing me?" Xuanya, compelled to respond, lowered his head and said, "Esteemed senior, I merely wish to ascertain your whereabouts, concerned for your safety." Upon hearing Xuanya's words, Qin Li erupted in laughter, tossing Xuanya upwards before delivering a swift kick that sent him flying. As Xuanya soared through the air, Qin Li teleported beside him, seizing his right hand and slamming it down with tremendous force. Bang! A deafening noise echoed throughout the entirety of Baiyang City, causing a tremor that reverberated in the surroundings. Far away at the city lord's residence, Baiyu was seated, enjoying tea with eunuch Lu when he felt his chair shake, instinctively realizing something was amiss. A surge of true energy, the void realm. Baiyu muttered with a furrowed brow. Eunuch Lu's tea trembled, spilling a few drops, his expression darkening as he stood abruptly, soaring towards the epicenter of the true energy disturbance. Goodness, this Inyang person cannot be serious. Merely a few drops spilled, and he intends to seek revenge? Just as Baiyu rose, he observed eunuch Lu rushing out with fierce determination, heading toward the source of the energy fluctuation. With a sigh, Baiyu remarked, "This Inyang individual certainly has a volatile temper." He flew out directly, with no other option, as the city lord. He had to take the lead when disturbances caused by the fluctuations of true qi from the void realm occurred within the city. At this moment, eunuch Lu was already en route. If he had heard Baiyu's words, he would likely have coldly scoffed inwardly, thinking that it was not merely a matter of avenging a few drops of water, but rather a desire to discern who dared to cause chaos beneath the imperial authority. The true qi fluctuations from the void realm naturally attracted the attention of all of Baiyu City, and many formidable figures were hastening towards the location of Qin Li and Qin Li. With a forceful motion, Qin Li slammed Qin Li into the ground, shattering the earth into cracks. Qin Li spat out a mouthful of blood, which trickled from the corner of his mouth. As Qin Li approached Qin Li, the latter attempted to rise, but found himself utterly powerless, glaring at Qin Li with fury in his wide-open eyes. Qin Li, observing Qin Li's desperate struggle, chuckled and remarked, "Do you think this elder requires the protection of a mere child like you? Mind your own business." Without hesitation, Qin Li extended his right hand, clenched into a fist, and aimed a blow at Qin Li's face. Sensing the impending strike, Qin Li closed his eyes. With a resounding thud, He felt a gust of air rush past his face. Upon opening his eyes, he saw Qin Li's fist mere inches from his head, narrowly missing a direct hit. A gasp escaped Xian Ye's lips, and his back became drenched in sweat. In that moment, he felt as though he had traversed the gates of the underworld. Had Qin Li's aim not faltered, his life would have surely ended. As Xian Yi prepared to turn his gaze toward Qin Li, the latter's voice reached his ears. If you wish to live, keep your mouth shut. Soon, others will arrive. And I hope you will know what to say and what to keep to yourself. Otherwise, this will be your fate. Just as Qin Li's words echoed, several white streaks appeared in the sky, moving with astonishing speed, all of them possessing the cultivation of the Void Realm, accompanied by numerous warriors of the Spirit Realm behind them. At this moment, Eunuch Lu had arrived by Xian Ye's side. With a delicate gesture, he warily scanned the surroundings and confirmed that only the incapacitated Xian Yi lay on the ground. Xian Yi, lying there, intended to inquire about Qin Li's identity. But when he turned to look, he only saw a figure with a delicate hand gesture before him. As for Qin Li, he had long since vanished. A eunuch? Xian Yi struggled to raise his head to regard the man, noting the considerable aura of malevolence surrounding him. The hand gesture indicated he was likely a eunuch from the palace. Each year during the mystic realm of mountains and seas, the royal family dispatched individuals, with the majority of the leading party being eunuchs. Thus, Xian Yi had encountered many over the years. Eunuch Lu extended his divine sense to survey the area and, confirming the absence of others, approached Xian Yi and inquired, "Who are you?" Just as Lu finished speaking, Bai Yu arrived, observing the incapacitated Xian Yi on the ground, and stepped forward to address Lu, saying, "This man is Xian Yi, an elder of the Qin sect." Eunuch Lu glanced at Bai Yu and then at Xian Yi, puzzled, and asked, "City Lord Bai, do you know this person?" Bai Yu nodded and gestured towards Xian Yi, saying, "Friend Xian Yi has always been the leader from Qin sect to the Shanghai secret realm. I have encountered him several times, so I am somewhat acquainted with him." Upon hearing Bai Yu's words, Lu Gonggong nodded and turned to Xian Yi, inquiring, "Esteemed Elder Xian Yi, may I ask what transpired here?" Xian Yi was about to respond when Bai Yu stepped behind him, assisting him to his feet and guiding him to a corner to lean against. In truth, Xian Yi's injuries were not severe. Qin Li would have certainly shown restraint when dealing with a senior elder of his own sect. If circumstances permitted, Qin Li would have eagerly revealed his identity and led Xian Yi to the seaside, pointing towards the vast ocean, saying, "Elder Xian Yi, behold the waters I have released for you." However, by that time, Elder Xian Yi would likely be overwhelmed with shame and fury to the point of self-destruction. Bai Yu set Xian Yi down in the corner and asked, "Friend Xian Yi, please enlighten us. What exactly transpired here that led to your downfall?" Lu Gonggong approached Bai Yu's side, his eyes narrowing like those of a hawk, fixating intently on Xian Yi's gaze. Before Xian Yi could utter a word, several beams of white light descended. 3 formidable figures of the Dongshu realm and 10 martial artists at the Yuanshan realm arrived at the scene. The group, upon spotting Bai Yu and Lu Gonggong, furrowed their brows in silence and moved towards the spot where Xian Yi had previously lain. Observing the cracked ground, their expressions grew increasingly complex. Many among them were specifically designated leaders from their respective sects to participate in the Shanghai secret realm. As Xian Yi noted the growing number of arrivals, he gazed at Bai Yu with a troubled expression and replied, "City Lord Bai, I initially intended to procure a few treasures for my sect's disciples. Then, I noticed a suspicious figure cloaked in black, and I followed him. Unfortunately, he detected my presence and launched an attack, resulting in my current state." As he recounted the incident, Xian Yi's voice grew weaker, and his gaze became evasive. He was not adept at fabricating lies and could only offer a vague account. Lu Gonggong, noticing Xian Yi's averted gaze, sensed that he was concealing further details. Just as he was about to press for more information, Bai Yu calmly interjected, "Friend Xian Yi, allow me to escort you back to the inn. I will investigate this matter thoroughly and assure you of a satisfactory resolution." Lu Gonggong, visibly displeased, confronted Bai Yu, saying, "City Lord Bai, you must understand that he has not spoken the truth. How can you simply let him depart?" Bai Yu, responding with a smile, replied, "Lu Gonggong, Xian Yi is no ordinary individual. He is an elder of the Dongshu realm from Qin sect. We are aware of his status, yet this situation is no trivial matter. What if his concealment causes harm to several princes?" Lu Gonggong's tone turned frigid as he pressed, "City Lord Bai, you must address this issue with utmost seriousness." Bai Yu nodded solemnly, affirming, "You are correct, Lu Gonggong. Tomorrow, I shall personally inquire and ensure he speaks the truth." Lu Gonggong acknowledged, stating, "It is imperative that you investigate this matter thoroughly, City Lord Bai." Subsequently, he soared into the air, transforming into a beam of white light and departing. As Bai Yu watched Lu Gonggong leave, he inwardly cursed, "That insufferable Yin Yang man. Does he think this is the imperial city? If I were to act as he suggested, Would Qin Li's sect let me off the hook? You are among His Majesty's entourage. What of me? Damn it. I reported an issue concerning the corpse-controlling sect. And 3 months have passed without a response. After much anticipation, they arrive only to dismiss the matter, saying we should wait until the sect invades. I shall be the first to flee, and then we shall see if you regret your inaction. Bai Yu's face was aflame with anger, nearly pointing an accusatory finger at the departing Lu Gonggong, ready to unleash a torrent of curses. After calming himself, he addressed the gathered warriors, declaring, "Everyone, disperse. I, Bai Yu, shall provide a satisfactory resolution to this matter." The warriors had initially come to witness the spectacle, but finding none, they had swiftly considered departing. At the Baiyang City Inn, elders Yuan He and Xian Ming paced back and forth at the entrance, their faces etched with concern. They had been waiting for Elder Xian Yi. Since Elder Xian Yi had departed with a rogue cultivator of the Void Realm, they had been anxious, especially after sensing the fluctuations of battle from that realm. Such disturbances had raised their hearts into their throats, fearing for Elder Xian Yi's safety. Although they had contemplated venturing forth to investigate, the thought of the numerous Qin Yun sect disciples left behind at the inn caused them to reconsider and remain vigilant. As mere spirit realm warriors, their assistance would be minimal, with a high likelihood of becoming mere cannon fodder. Fortunately, the intensity of the battle fluctuations was not severe. Subsequently, many Void Realm experts rushed to the site of the disturbances, providing a slight comfort to elders Yuan He and Xian Ming. With so many powerful cultivators heading to the fray, the likelihood of anything happening to Elder Xian Yi seemed minimal. Just as elders Yuan He and Xian Ming anxiously awaited at the inn's entrance, a soldier clad in red armor approached, carrying an injured individual on a stretcher. They hurriedly made their way to the inn's doorstep. Upon seeing the wounded figure lying on the stretcher, elders Yuan He and Xian Ming exclaimed, "Elder Xian Yi,